Chapter 1961. In an era very far away from the present, before the second sky dragon appeared, although Drake had not reached the level of a sky dragon, he was an existence that even gods and demon kings could not ignore. This was because Drake was a very famous flame dragon. It was famous for its flames that could burn everything. In that era, the Crimson Flame Dragon was an existence that made people tremble with fear. Wherever it passed, it could be said that not even a blade of grass grew. Nothing could survive under its flames. Drake was proud of having such flames and traveled all over the world. Until one day Drake heard a rumor. White poison dragon. That's right, a white poison dragon. It was said that there was a dragon with a beautiful white body that could use poison that even gods feared. No creature dared to approach that dragon. Once they got close, not only their bodies, but even their souls would be corroded by the poison, and they would die miserably. After hearing this rumor, Drake's first feeling was not curiosity, but emotion. It's very similar to me. Yes, it was very similar to Drake. Although Drake did not know how to use any poison, his flames were also the ultimate flames that could burn even gods. No creature would be willing to get close to him. However, unlike his opponent, Drake's flames weren't an ability he was born with. Instead, it was a sure kill skill that he developed through constant challenges and training. Therefore, Dalag really wanted to see what kind of existence this unique poison dragon was. Later, Drake found him a Rubian. When he saw a Rubian for the first time, Drake was indeed stunned. That white and flawless body was really as beautiful as the rumors said. However, at the same time Drake also felt it. Under that beautiful body, there were fatal fangs hidden. That was the poison called reduction. Thus, Drake issued a challenge to a Rubian. As soon as he challenged, Drake was shocked. This was because his omnipotent flames had no effect on a Rubian at all. However, a Rubian's poison also had no effect on Drake. In this way, the result was obvious. Compared to a Rubian, who was born with a terrifying ability and had always relied on his talent to fight and never improved himself, Drake, who had always been fighting and tempering himself, easily defeated a Rubian even though he had lost the power of flame. However, the fact that his flame, that could burn even gods, had no effect on the other party still shocked Drake greatly. Then Drake had an idea. A dragon that is not afraid of my flames, and has such good talent. If he trains well, he may become a strong opponent. Thus, Drake and a Rubian agreed to fight again and left there. After an unknown amount of time, a Rubian finally came in front of Drake. If it was the current me, it would be impossible for me to lose to you. A Rubian, who came to Drake and said this, had a confidence and pride that he didn't have when they first met. Then the two began the battle. In that battle, a Rubian did not use his ability to reduce even once. However, a Rubian was much stronger than when they first fought, and even Drake could not defeat him. In the end, both sides suffered. At that time, Drake was really shocked and also very happy, because he finally met an opponent worthy of competing with all his strength. Then Drake asked a Rubian why he did not use his ability to reduce. I don't need that power that can't work on you anymore. Leaving such a sentence, a Rubian left. Looking at the other party's confident and carefree back, Drake was stunned for a long time, and then made such a decision. Since you sealed your own poison, then I will also seal my flame. After all, that was a power that could not work on a Rubian. After that, Drake never used the power of flame again, and continued to fight with a Rubian who had sealed his poison. The two of them competed together and improved together. In the end, they even surpassed their limits together and reached the Heavenly Dragon level. They were known as the two Heavenly Dragons. Until this day, when he felt that a Rubian's poison had been unsealed, Drake finally released his flame. Roar, roar, roar! Covered in flames, Az Dahaka roared in pain, and cast all kinds of magic on himself. Resistance magic that could dispel flames, water magic that could extinguish flames, magic that could remove negative status effects, and even magic that could remove curses. Az Dahaka used almost all the magic he could think of on himself at least once. However, the flames that covered Az Dahaka's entire body did not extinguish, and continued to burn his body. Oa! Roar, roar, roar! Under the scorching flames, Az Dahaka's 3 heads issued agonizing roars, causing Noah's heart to shudder. Was that flame really so terrifying? Black flame's flame. Drake's voice echoed clearly. The ultimate flame that can burn everything to ashes, once ignited, will never be extinguished before it burns everything that is ignited. Even if it is a god under this flame, the final outcome can only be reduced to ashes. Even if Dahaka has reached the level of the heavenly dragon, it will be the same. You have such a terrifying ability. Noah could not help but ask. Then why didn't you say so before? Because this ability was sealed by me. Drake said matter-of-factly. Arubian's poison was also sealed, so I have no reason to use flame. Anyway, my flame is ineffective against him. Of course, his poison is also ineffective against me. Except for Arubian, it might not work against the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God, right? Even so, it was still terrifying. After all, except for the Red Dragon Emperor, the Infinite Dragon God, and the White Dragon Emperor, once touched by this flame, they would almost certainly die. Although Noah did not know what kind of ability Arubian's poison had if it was just Drake's flame, Noah was sure that even if it was him, once he was burned, there was no other way to neutralize it other than using another cosmology to offset it. It was an ability that was more dangerous than Forbidden Hand and Tyrannical Dragon. Noah finally understood that this was definitely not an exaggeration. Because even Tyrannical Dragon would be accompanied by the danger of going berserk and dying, and there was no guarantee that it could kill a god. However, once touched by Black Flame's flame, even a god would not be able to escape the fate of being burned to ashes. Compared to Forbidden Hand and Tyrannical Dragon, Black Flame's flame was indeed more terrifying. While Noah was thinking about this, Dahaka's roar became weaker and weaker. In the end, he couldn't even use magic anymore. His whole body fell down and crashed heavily onto the ground. He was on the verge of death. Even so, Black Flame's flame continued to burn on Dahaka's body, gradually burning it to ashes. Looking at Dahaka in this state, Noah's figure slowly descended in front of him, his dark and deep eyes never leaving him for even a moment. Ha! Dahaka let out a weak and dying laugh as he looked at the silent Noah and spoke. Don't sympathize with me. This is the end of an evil dragon. There are no exceptions. I know. Noah stared at Dahaka. Since you know, why do you still pursue battle? Why? Dahaka let out a playful laugh that was full of characteristics. Because being defeated by heroes and courageous people, that is the meaning of an evil dragon like me. After saying this, Dahaka's body gradually burned to ashes and turned into nothingness. Noah fell silent again. Above my corpse is justice? Noah closed his eyes. Although there are different evils, you are still the three-headed demon dragon of the fire worship sect. Chapter 1962. Above the boundless ocean, the various races of the myth faction and the evil dragon faction transformed by the Holy Grail were still fighting each other, filling the air with the stench of blood. Below them, the ocean was already dyed with various colors of blood, making it look like a beautiful rainbow. On this colorful ocean, the corpses of the evil dragons and warriors floated on the surface of the water, almost covering the entire ocean. Even under such circumstances, the killing continued. However, in general, the myth faction had the upper hand. That was to be expected. Not to mention that this encirclement and annihilation was carried out according to plan. The fact that the evil dragons were not rational was also a fatal flaw. On top of that, the mythological faction had gathered their forces to surround and annihilate the evil dragon. Only a few elites were sent to fight Lezavim, Euclid, and the legendary evil dragon in the alternate dimension. The battle was almost one-sided. As time passed, the myth faction gained more and more advantages. PSHHH. When the last evil dragon was slain by an angel of the heavens with a sword of light, the battle that involved all the myth faction finally came to an end. Before that, the battles in the various alternate dimensions had also come to an end. The ones who were sent to the alternate dimensions were Lezavim, Euclid, and the legendary evil dragons. According to the plan, Lezavim and Euclid, who might possess the Holy Grail, would be sent to the alternate dimensions respectively, while Wali and Gulifia would fight them. Apart from Lezavim and Euclid, as Dahaka and Apophis, who were known as the strongest evil dragons and whose strength was second only to the sky dragon level, had to be sent to a different dimension respectively, where Noah and Clon Kovak would fight. As for Glendale, Radon, and Nidhogg, they were all sent to the last alternate dimension. The ones who fought against the three evil dragons were the Jamonlis, Seedies, and Wallis. The result was gratifying. After Arubian untangled the knot in his heart, admitted to himself, and unleashed his true power, Varley, who used the poison of reduction that could destroy even the gods, easily defeated Lezavim, and killed the despicable son of the Demon King with his own hands. Clon Koa, who was also a heavenly dragon, had a fierce battle with Apophis. In the end, Clon Koa paid the price of an arm and crushed Apophis's throat with a bite. Glendale, Radon, and Nidhogg were also very difficult to deal with. If there were only Jamonlis and Seedi's kin, it would be very difficult to defeat them. However, Wally's team also participated in that chaotic battle. The result was different. With the participation of Blacksong, Luffy, Monkey, Arthur, and Fenrir, the Jamonli and Seedi families were also victorious. Glendale, known for his sturdy scales, could not stop the fangs that could kill even the gods, and was killed by Fenrir. Radon's barrier and defense were very difficult to deal with, but Laya's destructive magic was also known for destroying everything. With the help of the Jamonli's kin, she successfully destroyed the evil dragon. Nidhogg, on the other hand, was an idiot. In order to fight for food, he charged forward without thinking at all, only to have his innards crushed by Kitten and Blacksong's divine spells. He could not have been more dead. Without the help of the Holy Grail, the three legendary evil dragons that could not be revived did not even have their souls escape. Luffy sealed them with magic, and they could never be revived again. As for Euclid, no one expected that the direct heir of the Lucifergus family was not weaker than Gulifia at all. He had the power of a demon king. Gulifia, who also had the power of a demon king, almost lost to Euclid. Fortunately, compared to Euclid, Gulifia was still slightly better. In the end, she managed to knock her brother to the ground. In addition to Aziz Dahaka, who had been burned to ashes by Noah, the battle in the 5 different dimensions also ended with a great victory. As a result, apart from Euclid, who was captured alive by Gulifia, the rest of the people who were sent to the alternate dimension were all killed. In other words, the disaster squad was completely annihilated. In this war, the myths had won a complete victory. Oh! Above the multicolored ocean with countless floating corpses, warriors of various races raised their weapons high and cheered for victory. On an island, Euclid, who was tied up with mana-restraining ropes, was brought before Syzax by Gulifia. Euclid Lucifergus, Syzax said as he looked at Euclid, who was tied up and covered in wounds. As for you, I have a lot of things to say to you. I also have a lot to say to you. Euclid met Syzax's gaze and said expressionlessly, "After all, to me, you're the one who took away the position of Lucifer that I was supposed to support. You're also the one who took away my sister. So I think we should have a good talk." Syzax smiled faintly. "When we return to the underworld, I hope you can listen to me." Euclid didn't answer. Syzax didn't know whether he was disdainful or acquiescing. He turned his head away. Beside him, Noah didn't pay attention to Euclid. Instead, he turned his gaze to Clon Kovac. Looking at Clon Kovac's tired face and shoulder that was missing an arm, Noah approached and asked, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Clon Kovac didn't even turn his head and answered directly, "With Apophis as your opponent, you're already lucky to be able to defeat him." "That's true, but I'm the one who asked you to come here." Noah sighed. "I'm partly responsible for your injury." "You're wrong." Clon Kovac looked at Noah. His pair of different colored eyes, one gold and one black, stared at Noah. "Although I promised you to come here to fight, I also made a request at that time. That is, the opponent must be qualified. I chose Apophis myself, and I paid for this arm. It has nothing to do with you. Then you should at least give me a chance to compensate you, right?" Noah couldn't help but roll his eyes. "I'll find a way to help you recover your arm." Clon Kovac didn't say anything else. He seemed to agree with Noah's approach. In this regard, Asashel laughed. "Why don't you try the power of the Holy Grail? It just so happens that Wally has taken the Holy Grail back from Lesavim. Right, there was still the Holy Grail. With that tool of divine destruction that could subvert the principles of life. Even Clone Kowak could be resurrected after death, let alone recover an arm injury. Wally. Asashel looked at Wally in the distance. Where's the Holy Grail? Wally didn't answer. He only raised a hand and unfolded a magic formation. From the magic formation, a resplendent golden cup appeared and fell into Wally's hand, holding the Holy Grail. Wally was about to hand it to Asashel when Euclid suddenly raised his head and cried out in shock. You killed Lord Lesavim? What? Asashel said with a smile that wasn't a smile. Is there a problem? He deserved to die. Wally said mercilessly. There's no reason to keep him alive. Hearing Wally and Asashel's words, Euclid's face suddenly changed and became extremely pale. It's over. Euclid muttered sluggishly. It's all over now. Looking at Euclid's deathly pale face, everyone who thought that Euclid couldn't accept Lesavim's death immediately noticed something strange. Even Noah noticed it. The expression on Euclid's pale face was not one of sadness or pain, but of fear. That fear made everyone present look at each other in dismay. Noah's brows furrowed tightly. He subconsciously felt that something was wrong. Just when Noah wanted to step forward and ask Euclid, two petite figures suddenly flashed beside him. It was Orpheus and Lilith. The two dragon gods raised their heads and looked up with an extremely rare dignified expression. At the same time, a terrifying pressure descended from the sky, suppressing everyone's body. Chapter 1963. At this moment, regardless of whether it was Noah's group on the island or the warriors of the various mythical forces above the ocean, all of them seemed to have been frozen in place by the space, and their bodies stiffened. An unimaginable chill, like an electric current, rushed from everyone's back and went straight to their brain, making everyone's eyes widen slightly. Noah's pupils also shrank fiercely, and even his fists subconsciously clenched. Orpheus and Lilith, who suddenly appeared, stared at the sky from beginning to end, attracting Noah's attention. When Noah's eyes turned to the sky, and the scene in the sky was in his field of vision, he finally saw it. He saw a black shadow. A black shadow with a ferocious appearance slowly emerged from the space that seemed to be split open. That black shadow, although a little far away, Noah still saw its full appearance clearly. It was a ferocious alien. Its body easily exceeded several hundred meters in size. Its body was the shape of some kind of beast. There were 7 heads in total. Some were like lions. Some were like cheetahs. Some were like black bears. Some were like dragons. The 7 heads were completely different. Even the body with the shape of a beast had the characteristics of a variety of creatures, which was very strange. If there was any special feature of such an alien, it would probably be the horns on its head. There were 10 horns on the alien's head. On the 10 horns, there was a crown-like crown. And on the crown, 3 numbers were clearly engraved. 666. Such an alien slowly emerged from a crack in space, as if it was pushed out by something, and appeared in the sky. The heads of the alien seemed to be sleeping, and they all closed their eyes. However, on the huge ferocious appearance of the alien, there was an indescribable, extremely evil and ominous frenzy that numbed the 5 senses and was enough to prick the skin. Constantly fluctuated, and it was getting stronger and stronger. The oppressive feeling that made the whole world freeze, and made all the Asura gods and Buddhas shiver, came from the evil and ominous frenzy. Only at this moment Noah understood. That was not an ordinary thing. That was a monster that could turn this world into a scorched earth and pure hell. That evil and ominous arrogance was not in the least inferior to Aziz Dakaha, who was ranked in the top 3 of the final human trial in the box. At the same time, the rest of the people also began to notice the terrible beast in the sky. What is that? One by one, the famous Asura gods and Buddhas from various mythical forces stared blankly at the beast with the terrifying frenzy, and for a moment, even their minds became blank. All the Asura gods and Buddhas lost the ability to react, and all looked up at the terrible alien, without a word, making the entire sky above the ocean became dead silent. Only Michael and Asashel looked at the number 666, engraved on the beast's crown. and their faces turned pale in an instant. How could this be? How could this be? Michael had never lost his composure like this before as he murmured in disbelief. Why? Why did it appear here? Damn it. Asashal's entire body began to tremble. That thing actually exists? In the past, Michael and Asashal's loss of composure would definitely make everyone's jaws drop. However, at this moment, no one could laugh at Michael and Asashal. Even if it was Noah, it would be the same. Because after seeing the number on the ferocious beast's crown, no one would not understand what it represented. In the Bible's revelation, the number 666 represented the devil and had the meaning of blasphemy. The origin of this number was a beast recorded in the Bible's revelation. It was said that the beast had 7 heads, 10 horns, and a crown on the horns, and 3 blasphemous numbers were engraved on the crown 666. It was an emperor beast on par with the Great Red, who was known as the true Red Dragon Emperor. The chapter that recorded its existence was right next to the Great Red. However, its existence had not been confirmed by anyone until now. No one could find it. Everyone had only heard of it. If it was said that the mythical forces here were just legends to humans, then its existence was considered a legendary level to all the mythical forces in the legends. It was a legend among legends, a legend among legends. And those who knew of its existence all called it this. Beast Emperor 666 Trihexa. It was as famous as the Great Red, and its strength was comparable to the Red Dragon Emperor and the infinite dragon god in the legends. Now this Beast Emperor had appeared in front of all the mythical forces, in the worst possible form. In the next second, under the gaze of all the Asura gods and Buddhas of the mythical forces, the ferocious beast in the sky slowly opened its eyes. Lowering its head, looking at the densely packed Asura gods and Buddhas that almost covered the entire sea, the eyes of the Beast Emperor 660 SXS 7 heads were filled with ruthlessness and madness. A terrifying roar fell from the sky like a storm, smashing down from above, as if an invisible heavy pressure, fiercely hitting the Asura gods and Buddhas of the mythical forces. At this moment, everyone present, whether it was gods, demons, humans, angels, or vampires, all felt as if their souls were being ruthlessly torn apart, and their eardrums were instantly shattered. Suddenly, all the Asura gods and Buddhas covered their ears, lowered their heads, and let out painful screams. And this action made all the Asura gods and Buddhas unable to hear it. They could not hear Athasiel's hoarse shout. Run! Almost at the moment when Athasiel's shout was easily swallowed up by the Beast Emperor 660 SIXS roar, the Beast Emperor 666 in the sky moved. It raised one of its 7 heads, opened its ferocious beast mouth, and spat out a huge fireball into the dense crowd below. A huge fireball that was as big as a burning star, like a falling sun, fell at a terrifying speed. The fireball evaporated the atmosphere, burned the water vapor, and at the same time the temperature of the entire world rapidly rose to an alarming degree. It fell heavily on the sea like a meteorite. With a deafening roar, the huge fireball exploded, turned into a terrifying sea of fire, and instantly covered a large area of the sea. In the sea of fire, the seawater evaporated and became boiling like magma. In the sea of fire, the atmosphere was burned up, and it became extremely hot like a volcano. In the sea of fire, the unfortunate Asura gods and Buddhas that were engulfed in the sea of fire did not even have time to scream before they were all burned to ashes by the flames and disappeared without a trace. Whether it was humans, demons, angels, fallen angels, vampires, or even gods, they all became extremely fragile and lost their precious lives in an instant. Looking at all of this, the most primitive fear finally rose in everyone's hearts. The terrible roar that was enough to tear the soul continued to rage in the sky, revealing the beginning of the end. Chapter 1964. Euclid knelt on the ground and looked at the terrifying beast in the sky. He seemed to be in a daze as he murmured in his sleep. 666 really woke up. Seeing Euclid's expression, how could they not understand? The appearance of the Beast King 666 was definitely related to the cluster of disasters. Bastard. Asashel grabbed Euclid's collar and said angrily, "What did you do?" Euclid seemed to have woken up at this moment. He gritted his teeth and fell into silence. Looking at Euclid's reaction, the anger in Asashel's heart grew stronger. Just as Asashel was about to attack Euclid, Syzax stared at Euclid with a serious expression that was never seen before. "Tell us, why did the Beast King 666 appear?" Hearing this, Euclid looked up and glanced at Syzax, then at Gulifia, who was staring at him. He laughed self-deprecatingly. "Because the Beast King 666 is our trump card." "Your trump card?" Michael asked in disbelief. "In other words, the cluster of disasters has always had 666? No, we only found 666 after obtaining the Holy Grail." Euclid shook his head. "The Holy Grail can subvert the principles of life. When we used the Holy Grail to revive the evil dragon, we coincidentally discovered 660 SIXS life force, and found it at the end of the world." "The end of the world?" Asashel's eyes widened. "So the Beast King 666 has always been there, and that's why it wasn't discovered?" "That's right," Euclid said expressionlessly. "Moreover, when we found it, it was sealed by countless forbidden spells and fell into an endless slumber. That's why the Beast King 666 has always been a legend. No one has been able to prove its existence. There is only one person, no one God. A God is very sure that it exists." Euclid looked at Michael. "That is the creator of the heavens and angels, the creator of the divine artifacts, the God of the Bible." Michael's expression suddenly became pained. "That's right, the only one who was certain that 666 existed was the God of the Bible. Otherwise, there would be no record of the Beast Emperor in the Bible, and it would not be listed next to the real Red Dragon Emperor. I'm afraid that before we found 666, the only one who discovered 666 was the God of the Bible," Euclid said in a low voice. "Then, the God of the Holy Bible might have realized how terrifying the Beast Emperor, who was comparable to the God Emperor Crimson Dragon and the Infinite Dragon God, was. He discovered that the Beast Emperor had a wild and ferocious nature that could destroy everything. He would definitely not be like the God Emperor Crimson Dragon and the Infinite Dragon God, who would not interfere with the world. If 666 appeared, it would definitely lead the world to destruction. So the God of the Bible sealed 666 with countless prohibition-level seals?" Syzax took a deep breath. "So that's why the God of the Bible died." These words were completely baffling. However, many of the people present showed understanding expressions and fell into an indescribable silence. Noah also understood why Syzax would say that. Because the death of the God of the Bible was originally filled with many mysteries. That was a God who occupied the position of a mythical God all by himself, and was known as the only God by people. He was a God who could even develop divine weapons that could give humans powers comparable to the existence of other races. Such a God, conservatively estimated to be at least in the top 10 in the world, and might even be more powerful than the God of destruction, Shiva, who was previously ranked second. In the end, how did such a powerful God die? In the ancient war between the demons, angels, and fallen angels, he perished together with the 4 demon kings. What kind of joke was this? An existence who occupied a mythical God all by himself, who could even develop divine weapons, and who was at least in the top 10 in the world, perished together with the 4 demon kings? That was simply impossible. However, the God of the Bible had died in the war with the 4 demon kings. This was something that Michael, Asashel, and the others had all witnessed. Then, why did the God of the Bible end up perishing together with the 4 demon kings? The reason was only answered at this moment. In order to seal the Beast Emperor, who was at the same level as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God, it was not difficult to imagine how weak the God of the Bible would be and how much his power would be reduced. In such a state, participating in the war between the demons, angels, and fallen angels, facing the 4 demon kings, and finally perishing together was not strange. Unfortunately, the Beast Emperor 666, who indirectly caused the death of the God of the Bible, was found by a bastard like Lezavim. Everyone could even imagine how excited Lezavim was when he saw the Beast Emperor 666. After that, In order to unlock the seal of the Beast Emperor 666, Lord Lesavim tried everything, but the speed of unlocking the seal was very slow, so Lord Lesavim could not use it to attack the major mythical powers at all. Euclid's voice began to tremble. However, just in case, Lord Lesavim also engraved a spell that was connected to his life on the Beast Emperor 666. Once he dies, his soul will become 660 SXS nourishment, and it will forcibly skip all the unlocking procedures and directly unlock the seal of 666 and awaken him. Wah! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. In other words, the appearance of the Beast Emperor 666 was all because of Lesavim? Bastard! Asashel fiercely hammered the tree beside him, smashing the thick tree into pieces with a bang. That bastard! I see. Varley was also mad with hatred. That's why he said that if I kill him, I'll definitely regret it. Just when everyone was having a hard time adapting to the sudden information, an earth-shattering roar resounded again. Boom! As if an atomic bomb had been detonated, a huge fireball fell from midair and exploded in the dense crowd of Asura gods and Buddhas, setting off a violent shock wave and a terrifying sea of fire that engulfed the warriors one by one. Monster! What do we do? Attack! Hurry up and attack! Stop joking. We'll die. Seeing their comrades die one after another in front of them, everyone panicked. Their faces were filled with fear. Under such circumstances, 666 was still roaring in the sky. His 7 heads spat out huge fireballs that were as hot as the sun, causing the sea of fire to burn on the sea, creating a space of water and fire. However, in this space, the Asura gods and Buddhas of the various mythical organizations were facing a fatal disaster. No. We can't continue watching like this. Asashel shouted in a low voice. Get ready to fight. It's useless. Euclid laughed bitterly. That's an existence that's completely different from us. It's the Beast Emperor from the Revelation of the World. Unless it's the Emperor of God Red Dragon or the Infinite Dragon God, it's impossible to defeat it. Right, the Infinite Dragon God. Asashel turned his head and looked at Orpheus and Lilith. Orpheus, Lilith, hurry up and stop that Beast Emperor. No, we can't do it. Orpheus shook his head without hesitation. I'm no match for 666 now. It's dangerous. Lilith kept staring at 666 in the sky, her petite body trembling. The Beast Emperor is very dangerous. Seeing Orpheus and Lilith in such a state, everyone's face darkened. If it's the Infinite Dragon God in its complete form, it's still possible. But now, Orpheus and Lilith have no way of resisting 666. Euclid said stiffly. It's over for this world. However, at this moment, Wally said sarcastically, in the past, perhaps only the Emperor of God Red Dragon and the Infinite Dragon God could fight against the Beast Emperor from the Revelation of the World. But now, isn't there another person who can defeat 666? Wally raised his head and looked at the sky. Haven't you noticed that that person is no longer here? Hearing Wally's words, everyone was shocked. Bam! At the same time, a muffled thunder-like sound resounded in the sky. Chapter 1965. Boom! When the thunder-like muffled sound resounded in the sky, everyone saw it. The Beast Emperor, who was like the embodiment of Doomsday just a second ago, seemed to have been hit by something at this moment. His huge body rubbed against the air, and with a sharp piercing sound he flew backward. Even the burning sea of fire on the surface of the sea was shaken off, and he smashed straight into the ocean. In an instant, the entire ocean seemed to have been stirred up. Huge splashes were set off, causing the splashes to turn into huge waves that surged in all directions. At the same time, a circle of shock waves also spread out on the surface of the sea, like a storm, causing waves to rise again and again. The scene was very spectacular. Looking at this scene, the Asura gods and Buddhas from the myth's forces who were in deep trouble just a second ago were all stunned. On the island, Athaziel, Sazax, Michael, Wally, and the others all raised their heads and looked at the sky. They saw that at the original position of the Beast Emperor 666, a figure that was shaking with crimson airwaves had appeared there without them noticing. On his body, the crimson airwaves were like a hurricane that could topple mountains and overturn seas. They surged violently and blew away the surrounding clouds. Not only that, but a burst of gorgeous starlight also lingered back and forth around the crimson airwaves, turning into a Milky Way that wandered constantly. It looked extremely beautiful. In direct proportion to that beauty, an extremely terrifying aura continued to rise. It was like layers upon layers of shockwaves that shook the entire world. Seeing this, how could everyone still not understand? The Beast Emperor 666 was attacked, and he was smashed down from the high sky into the sea. Almost all of the Asuras and Buddhas from the various mythological forces knew who that person was. Because long ago, the other party's name of the Godslayer had spread to all the myth's forces. It was not until this moment that everyone remembered. That's right. They still had a trump card on their side. It was not that there was no resistance. Oh. At that moment, all the Asura gods and Buddhas from the myth's forces cheered again. However, the only response to the enthusiastic cheers was an angry voice that said, "Don't worry. All of you stand down." Noah frowned and his voice echoed clearly. "If you have the time to cheer, why don't you hurry up and run for your life? Do you think your life is too long if you continue to stay there?" The cheers that resounded through the clouds seemed to have been abruptly cut off, and came to an abrupt halt. However, the Asuras, gods, and Buddhas from the various mythological forces were not the slightest bit angry. Instead, they seemed to have just realized that this place was not suitable for them to stay for long. At this moment, the surface of the sea that was stirred up a large amount of water seemed to be boiling as it fluctuated. Dong! Following an earth-shattering explosion, the surface of the sea suddenly exploded. It was as if the entire sea was blown apart, leading straight to the bottomless seabed. There, the huge mutated Beast Emperor stepped on the wet ground and let out a roar that shook the sea. The terrifying roar carried an unparalleled pressure. Not only did it shake the entire sea open, exposing the bottom of the sea to the air, but it also turned the sound waves into waves that were even more turbulent than the sea waves. They swept out in all directions like a storm. Under the roar that seemed to be able to tear the soul apart, the Asuras, gods, and Buddhas from the mythological forces once again held their heads and let out a muffled groan. As a result, even Asashel and the others on the island were affected and felt extremely uncomfortable. Quick! Asashel resisted the trembling in his heart, and did not hesitate to use his power to let his voice reach everyone's ears. "Get out of here quickly!" Only then did everyone come to their senses and hurriedly retreat. For a moment, they were like ants scattering in all directions. Their movements were incomparably fast, causing the densely packed crowd that almost covered the entire surface of the sea to instantly retreat completely. Until then, the Beast Emperor that had silently shown itself rose from the bottom of the sea and flew into the air. Splash! The seawater that had been forcibly separated was like a flood that had opened the floodgates. It submerged the exposed seabed, causing the entire sea to surge. It was quite a shocking scene. Noah stared in the direction of 666. Although its appearance looked like it was pieced together by various creatures, its behavior was like that of a primate. Its body was leaning forward, and there were 4 thick limbs on its body. Its legs were thicker than its arms, and it was a bit like a Jurassic dinosaur. It did not have wings, but it could still fly in the air. Its hair was black, and there were hard things that looked like scales everywhere, as well as bright red protrusions that looked like blood. There were the same number of tails as the heads, and they were also of different shapes. Some were like lions, some were like bears, some were like leopards, and some were like dragons. They formed a correspondence with the heads. At first glance, it looked like it was pieced together by 7 animals. It was not so much a 4, but rather a 7. But it was such a strange appearance that brought a kind of fear from the bottom of one's heart. The most frightening thing was the emotions that were surging in the eyes of the 7 heads. Ruthlessness, ferocity, cruelty, coldness. It was almost a collection of all the emotions that a beast that had lost its mind should have. Not to mention, its aura was so strong that it was terrifying, as if it could destroy the world. Even the sky was affected by it. Thick layers of dark clouds appeared, and thunder began to flash. In this world, Noah had only felt such a terrifying aura from Orpheus when he was at his peak. I didn't expect that there was such a monster hidden in this world. Noah's eyes gradually became serious. No wonder the God of the Bible wanted to seal it. What do you plan to do? Drake's voice sounded in Noah's mind. Although you have the power of another cosmology, and won't lose to 660 SIXS beast, but frankly speaking, with your power and 660 SIXS power, if you fight here, the entire human world will be turned upside down and usher in real destruction. So, we can only end this quickly. Noah said without any hesitation. Drake, is there a problem? Are you going to use that? Drake seemed to understand what Noah was going to do. Well, it was still incomplete before, but after Wally Lucifer demonstrated it once, I've almost adjusted it. Now, I can definitely fully exert the power of that form. Hearing this, Noah suddenly smiled and stepped forward. Boom. Suddenly, the crimson waves that fluctuated around Noah's body suddenly became violent and turned into a shocking storm. With Noah as the center, it violently surged to the entire world. A violent force rose from the crimson chi wave and soared into the sky, dispersing the thick layer of dark clouds in the sky. In the distance, Wally, who had retreated to a safe distance, was shocked. He suddenly raised his eyes, looked at Noah, and was extremely surprised. This feeling, is it that? As soon as his voice fell, a pair of light wings flashed out from Wally's back. That's right, this domineering aura that seems to intend to conquer everything in the world. It can only be that. Arubian's voice sounded from the light wings. Wally, it seems that your opponent has also completed that. Under the gaze of Wally and Arubian, in the crimson waves that turned into a storm in midair, Noah's voice seemed to resound in everyone's heart as he chanted. I awaken as the Crimson Dragon Emperor who fuses the power of God-slaying into himself, eternal salvation through the infinite world, to the tyrannical path. I become the Emperor of the Deep Dragon, guide thee to the limit of true red and the limit of fantasy, under the tyrannical incantation. The crimson storm that raged in the entire sky fluctuated wildly, and its color gradually became deeper. Juggernaut Overdrive. Chapter 1966. Wang. A clear and audible tremor reverberated in the air above the surging ocean, covering up the thunder and lightning in the sky. Violent waves of air swept back and forth, carrying an extremely tyrannical aura. They slowly converged and turned into a dragon shadow, covering Noah's body. That dragon shadow was almost no different from when Noah used Forbidden Hand. However, its color had changed from scarlet to true red. The color was as deep as fresh blood and was extremely dazzling. Under the cover of that true red dragon shadow, Noah's aura skyrocketed several times. Feeling that tyrannical aura, all the Asuras present held their breaths, feeling that even breathing became difficult. As expected, Varley stared at that true red figure. As expected, he also improved the Tyrannosaurus Rex and developed the extreme Tyrannosaurus Rex strength without any side effects. Before heading to the territory of the vampires, Noah had obtained a total of 4 rewards during the 1 month of special training for the Jimin's dependents. One was an eternal and fixed enhancement. One was a divine power that increased the shaping property. One was magic power that could conjure up imagination. Another was a transformation targeted at T-Rex. On the day that the artificial artifact was completed, Drake told Noah that due to the artificial artifact's reappearance, Gauntlet could not only use Forbidden Hand, but could also use T-Rex. However, the form of the Tyrannosaurus Rex was originally a curse and ominous power. Even if Noah could rely on the third perpetual motion machine, and his own special physique to be immune to most of the side effects, it was still not a form suitable for long-term development. Since then, Noah had been pondering over how to improve T-Rex. During the period of special training for Jimenez's kin, Noah's fourth gain was that T-Rex's improvement had already produced results. Since then, Noah had already been able to use T-Rex without any side effects. However, that power was not complete. There were 2 reasons for that. One was because T-Rex's form reproduced Drake's power when he was alive. Even if he used it, he could only reach the heavenly dragon level at most, and would not be able to advance any further. As for Noah, he was already able to reach the heavenly dragon rank when he only used Forbidden Hand. If he used Tyrannosaurus, which could only reach the heavenly dragon rank, it would not increase his strength by much. In other words, at that time, the Tyrannosaurus would be in a form that was tasteless to eat but a pity to abandon. Another reason was that Noah's gauntlet was a subspecies of gauntlet, while the Tyrannosaurus rex that was recreated by the artifact was the original gauntlet. After all, Noah had never used Tyrannosaurus before. He hadn't merged Tyrannosaurus with his avatar, so he naturally couldn't recreate a Tyrannosaurus that was suitable for him. Under the influence of the inappropriate Tyrannosaurus form, the buff Noah received could be said to be negligible. Therefore, at that time, Tyrannosaurus was not complete, and there were many things that needed to be improved. It wasn't until he saw Wally's Tyrannosaurus that didn't have any side effects and had room for growth that Noah was inspired to improve Tyrannosaurus. The final Tyrannosaurus form that was born was the current form, True Red Tyrannosaurus. Once used, it would recreate all of Drake's power when he was alive, and superimpose it on Noah's body. Moreover, this form was the same as Wally's Tyrannosaurus. They both had room for growth. And Noah himself had a 4-digit level. As for Drake, when he was at his peak, he was close to the 4-digit level. With the superimposition of the two, once Noah used Tyrannosaurus, his power would exceed the 4-digit level, reaching the same level as Orpheus and Lilith, between the 3-digit and 4-digit levels. In other words, once he used Tyrannosaurus, even without the power of another cosmology, Noah would have the power to rank first in this world. Of course, if that was the case, he wouldn't be able to defeat 666. That was because the Beast Emperor of the Tacit Record was in existence on the same level as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God. His power had reached the 3-digit level. Therefore, if he wanted to end the battle quickly, Noah had to use all of his current power. Avesta, activate. Counteracted in turn. Another cosmology. Suddenly, the bright starlight that shone like the Milky Way bloomed on the Red Dragon shadow, as if the Red Dragon shadow was draped in a light cloak made of stars. It was incomparably beautiful. At the same time, Noah's power surged crazily again, causing the red chi wave and the bright starlight to rise like burning flames, shooting into the sky and into the clouds. Gah! The pitch-black Beast Emperor seemed to have noticed that Noah's power had surged to a level that could threaten him, and immediately let out a threatening roar. Unfortunately, that roar was like announcing the start of the battle, exploding the air. Noah, whose body was surging with red chi wave and bright starlight, raised his hand high up, and a ball of heat that could melt steel suddenly gathered above his palm. The heat condensed into a huge fireball that was like a burning sun, and like a falling star, it burned the surrounding atmosphere. That was the power of 666. Didn't you have a lot of fun spitting fire just now? Noah's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Then you should also have a taste of what it feels like to be ignited by fire. Noah's raised arms suddenly shook after his words sounded. A huge fireball shot out, carrying a terrifying heat that steamed the ocean below until waves of water vapor were emitted as it shot in the direction of 666. The Beast Emperor's 666 heads roared at the same time, and all of them opened their ferocious mouths. They gathered the same amount of heat in their mouths, and under the fluctuations of the flames, they spat out huge scorching fireballs one after another. As a result, the 8 burning fireballs that were like miniature suns all streaked across the space, with the momentum of burning everything in their path, bombarding together heavily. Boom! The sound of the explosion reverberated through the world, stirring up a violent hurricane-like shock wave that overturned the entire sea. An incomparably violent sea of fire exploded at the point of collision. In an instant, it almost covered the entire sky, dyeing the thick layer of dark clouds with a fiery red color. The Shura gods and Buddhas of the myths, who had retreated to a safe distance, looked at the earth-shattering collision. Their bodies had long been roasted by the amazing heat of the sea of fire, and their faces were covered with cold sweat. They were already so far away, but they were still sweating all over from the heat. If the distance was closer, even if all the people here were legendary creatures, and there were even gods, they would still be melted by the terrifying heat, right? The battle had just begun. And it was already so terrible? They are all monsters. It was unknown who spat out a trembling voice, but it made everyone agree with him from the bottom of their hearts. However, just as everyone was thinking this, the situation suddenly changed. Boom. In the violent sea of fire that covered the entire sky, there was a flame that suddenly began to distort. Then the surrounding flames were burned out. What? Azazel was shocked. The flame is burning? A burning flame? Sizax was also surprised. What kind of flame is that? Only Wally's eyes lit up, and he immediately recognized the flame. Arubian, don't tell me that's right. Arubian's voice was unprecedentedly dignified. That's the fire of the Red Dragon Emperor Drake, the fire of the black flames that can burn everything in the world. It's definitely not inferior to my reducing poison at all. It's an ultimate fire that even gods fear. Even if the target is also a fire, that fire can burn it to nothing. As if to prove that Arubian was telling the truth, Black Flame's flame burned out all the surrounding flames. Immediately, it spread out without slowing down and directly shrouded the Beast Emperor 666. Ga ga ga. The Beast Emperor 666 let out a painful roar. Chapter 1967. Bang. On the body of the huge beast, the flames continued to burn, accompanied by a series of explosions, causing the Beast Emperor 666 to roar towards the sky, its voice filled with pain. The Asuras, gods, and Buddhas who had retreated to a safe distance could clearly see that Beast Emperor 666's flesh and blood were incinerated into ashes during the process of Black Flame's burning. However, he recovered very quickly. In the Bible, it was indeed recorded that even if one was injured, one would immediately recover. Originally, his power was far beyond that of the gods in all mythological systems. In the end, he also had the ability equivalent to an immortal body. There was no situation more troublesome than this. However, at this moment, the Asuras, gods, and Buddhas were no longer looking at the Beast Emperor with fear in their eyes. Instead, there was only sympathy and pity. This was because Li Yan's flames would never be extinguished before the target was burned to ashes. Under such circumstances, although the Beast Emperor's regenerative ability had saved its life and prevented it from dying, it had also made it endure the most terrifying flames in the world. It had experienced the pain of being burned by the flames over and over again. In the end, it was worse than death. Caw 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 caw. The Beast Emperor continued to roar in pain as it tossed and turned in the sky. Its huge body was repeatedly being burned and healed. The pain during this period was truly unbearable, and it was in so much pain that it wished it was dead. Beast Emperor 666 could only roar at the sky as he dived into the ocean. The moment the Beast Emperor rushed into the ocean, a clear sound like a flame being extinguished by water could be heard. However, the flames on Beast Emperor 666's body were not extinguished by the endless seawater. Instead, it burned the surrounding seawater, causing dense steam to fill the sky. Caw 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 caw. Unable to extinguish the flames on its body, the Beast Emperor could only howl in pain. Everywhere it went, the seawater would evaporate in an instant, causing a large amount of water vapor to rise from the sea and cover the entire space. It must be very painful, right? Noah looked down at the Beast Emperor, who was desperately rolling in the sea and stirring up the entire sea into chaos. There was no trace of pity in his deep, dark eyes. Then I'll release you immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, Noah's figure immediately swooped down and turned into a bullet that was shot out of the barrel. He swept across the space, bringing with him a true red airwave and resplendent starlight. Like a meteor falling from the sky, he violently rushed in front of the Beast Emperor 666. Clang! A dazzling white light suddenly blossomed from one of Noah's hands. As if he had caught the light, Noah raised his hand and gently placed it on the Beast Emperor 666's body. Wong! The dazzling white light immediately surged towards Beast Emperor 666's body like a tide, covering Beast Emperor 666 along with the flames that were burning unceasingly. In the next second, the Beast Emperor 666's body suddenly trembled, and its roaring stopped abruptly. White lines spread out from his body, slicing the huge alien body into cubes of equal size. Dong. When such an explosion resounded, the Beast Emperor's body, which had stirred up a large amount of water vapor in the sea, exploded, turning into an extremely uniform square. On the square, the flames of the black flames suddenly expanded, burning the square into ashes one by one, leaving no trace behind. The entire place suddenly became silent, leaving only the sound of the sea rolling up and down. An indescribable silence pervaded the air. Did it succeed? No one knew who asked this question, but no one answered. Everyone opened their eyes wide and stared at the position where the Beast Emperor 666 had been a second ago, trying to find a trace of clues. On the other hand, Asashel, Sachs, Michael, Wally, Zamanli's family, Sidi's family, Klon Kovac, and the others were closely staring at Noah, who was floating on the surface of the sea. Their expressions didn't relax at all. This was because the Beast Emperor 660 SAXS wild aura, which seemed to be able to shake the souls of the Azura gods, had not completely disappeared in this world. What did that prove? It proved that the Beast Emperor 666 was not dead. Even Asasher and the others could clearly feel the Beast Emperor 660 SAXS wild aura. Naturally, Noah, with his superb sensing ability, could feel it. At that moment, Noah frowned tightly, closed his eyes, and fully unfolded his sensing ability to cover the surrounding area. Like a radar, he carried out a carpet search. The surrounding atmosphere was constantly pervaded by a deathly silence, bringing an indescribable sense of heaviness to the air. The Azuras, gods, and Buddhas from the various mythological forces subconsciously suppressed their breathing, not daring to even breathe loudly. It was not until a certain moment that Noah suddenly opened his eyes, turned his head, and looked in a direction. Crack! Almost at the same time, the space where Noah's gaze was fixed on suddenly cracked, and a crack appeared. Piak piak piak. As if it had caused a chain reaction, the space kept cracking and even distorting. It broke like glass, and a void of darkness was imprinted in Noah's eyes. Then Noah saw it. In the space crack that looked like broken glass, a human figure emitting a dazzling brilliance floated out. Ah! A hair-raising roar suddenly sounded from the mouth of the human figure emitting brilliance. The voice was filled with madness, violence, and ferocity, causing everyone to show a frightened expression. What? What is that? Everyone couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Noah's brows furrowed again. He felt the Beast Emperor 660 SIXS wild aura from the other party, as well as the terrifying energy fluctuation that was almost identical to the Beast Emperor 660 SIXS. He asked Drake, is that 666? This aura, this power, if you say it's not 666, even I won't believe it. Drake said in a deep voice. Looks like the Beast Emperor spat out its core before it was destroyed by Li Yan's flames and magic power, and managed to escape. Core? Noah's gaze turned directly to the human figure emitting brilliance. That's 660 SIXS core? It even spat out its core and abandoned its original body. It seems that the Beast Emperor has been forced into a dead end by you. Drake said. Next is 660 SIXS desperate counterattack. You have to be careful. The moment Drake finished speaking, several pairs of wings suddenly spread out from the back of the Beast Emperor 660 SIXS core. Those wings were the wings of birds, dragons, and even bats. There were almost all kinds of wings, fully demonstrating 660 SIXS deformity. Afterwards, the core suddenly flapped the wings on its back and charged towards Noah in a frenzied manner with a ruthless aura. Seeing this, Noah narrowed his eyes. The red aura around him, and the resplendent starlight also swelled. The magic power in his body circulated and turned into divine power that flowed rapidly. In the next moment, thick chains of light suddenly condensed in the space around Noah without any warning. They shot out from the ripples of space and quickly wound around him. The Beast Emperor's core had just arrived in front of Noah, but before it could attack, the chains of light swept over and wound around its body, binding its limbs and body. It hung in front of Noah. Awe! The Beast Emperor 660 SIXS core suddenly struggled madly and roared at Noah. Its violent, ferocious, and crazy appearance did not look like a creature at all. Looking at the 666 core, Noah was silent for a moment. Then he spoke calmly. Perhaps you shouldn't even exist in this world. After saying that, Noah extended a finger and pointed at the 666 core's chest. Activate virtual star Tisway. Let the universe revolve. Simulating another cosmology. A burst of bright starlight suddenly bloomed from 660 SIX's core and covered its entire body. The core of the Beast Emperor 666 seemed to have sensed something, and it let out a crazy roar like a dying beast. Under such circumstances, the resplendent starlight completely engulfed 660 SIX's core. With a twist, it turned into a ball of dazzling light and fell into Noah's hand. This scene was not unfamiliar to the Asuras and Buddhas of the various mythological forces. It was exactly the same as when Hades, the god of the underworld, was sealed in Greek mythology. Looking at Noah, who was hovering above the surface of the sea, holding a ball of dazzling light in his hand, the Asuras exchanged glances with each other, their faces flushed red. Oh! Not long after, a burst of loud cheers resounded, and it didn't subside for a long time. Chapter 1968. The war was over. After Lezavim was killed, Euclid was captured, the evil dragons were annihilated, and the Holy Grail was retrieved. Now the disaster squad had suffered a great loss. They no longer had the strength to resist the various mythical forces. In other words, the disaster group was already dead in name only. However, the main gods of the mythical forces did not want to let the disaster group go so easily. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. As a group that gathered the terrorists of every mythical force, if they continued to allow this group of terrorists to exist, even if there would not be a large-scale war, it would definitely cause all kinds of trouble. Therefore, in order to get things done once and for all, the main gods of the mythical forces expressed that they must take advantage of this opportunity to uproot the disaster group. Fortunately, as the only trusted aide of Lezavim, Euclid had been arrested. In the case of Lezavim's death, Euclid no longer had any hope for the disaster group. Coupled with the fact that even the 666 beast on the same level as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Infinite Dragon God was sealed by Noah alone, Euclid had completely given up on continuing to resist all the mythical forces. And so, with Euclid's help, the group successfully found the alternate dimension of the disaster's base camp, which was constantly changing its coordinates. In one fell swoop, they broke into the alternate dimension and wiped out the rest of the disaster's members. At this point, the disaster group was completely disbanded, and all the terrorists were brought to justice. Without the threat of terrorists, and with the major mythical forces now reaching a peace agreement, the world had truly ushered in peace. Therefore, on this day, Asashel was undoubtedly the happiest. After that, the main gods of the various mythological forces gathered again, and held a short meeting. An important issue in the meeting was the seal of the 666 Beast Emperor. Unlike Hades, who was sealed forever in the underworld by Noah, the 666 Beast Emperor was sealed in the fictional world by Noah using the illusory star Tisway, waiting to be dealt with. The effect of this simulated star atlas, another cosmology, was that it could ignore the difference in strength and seal natural gods and elves of stars in the fictional world, and could only exert the effect of having the spiritual capacity of other objects. In the world of Demon High School, there was no such thing as soul points, so the effect of having soul points was completely useless. Beast Emperor 666 was not a natural-born deity, nor was he a star spirit. Naturally, he could not ignore the difference in strength and seal him away. Logically speaking, the simulated star map, another cosmology, named illusory star Tisway, should not be useful to 666. However, don't forget that this another cosmology can be used to create fictional worlds as cages. Back in the box, when faced with the million gods who came to seize the sovereignty of the sun, Noah first sealed up the most powerful gods, then personally through the Asuras, gods, and Buddhas, whose spiritual attributes had been reduced by half, into that imaginary world. Even the strongest species could not break through the fictional world created by the simulated star Atlas, another cosmology, let alone those Asura gods and Buddhas. Therefore, even if the illusory star Taisui could not have any effect on 666, Noah could still use it to create a fictional world as a cage to imprison the Beast Emperor. With the cage created by the another cosmology, there were only two ways for the Beast Emperor 666 to get out of it. One was to rely on his own brute force to break free. However, the so-called another cosmology was above the 3-digit power of the box, and was equivalent to a 2-digit power. If the Beast Emperor wanted to rely on brute force to break free, it would only be possible if the power far exceeded the gift itself, which was more than a 2-digit power, and reached the 1-digit power level. However, the Beast Emperor 666 only had its core left. Even if it still retained a 3-digit power level, it was impossible to reach the 1-digit power equivalent to a part of the law. Therefore, this method was equivalent to not having any. The second was to rely on others to open the fictional world. If one wanted to open the fictional world, there were also two ways. The first was as mentioned above, and a person with a single-digit power level could forcefully pry it open. The second was to use an equivalent but mutually restraining, another cosmology, such as Avesta, which could offset the power of another cosmology, to release the Beast Emperor 666 from it. In this world where even the Crimson Dragon Emperor, the Infinite Dragon God, and the Silent Revelation Beast Emperor only had 3-digit power, it was impossible for a single-digit power to appear. On the same level as another cosmology, it was also impossible for a method above the 3-digit power level to exist. Therefore, these two methods were almost impossible to achieve in this world. In this way, unless the person who held the illusory star Taisui opened the fictional world himself, the Beast Emperor 666 would never be able to come out. In this way, there was no need to worry about the Beast Emperor 666 escaping at all. Noah could completely throw it into the sea, and continue to sleep for the rest of its life. However, the main gods of the mythical organizations were not at ease. Even Athaziel, Sazax, and Michael were not at ease, so they held a meeting on how to deal with the Beast Emperor 666. In the end, after some discussion, all the main gods decided to hand the Beast Emperor 666 over to Michael, and seal it in the heavens. After all, the only one who had ever confirmed the existence of 666 was the God of the Bible. Sealing 666 in the heavens could be considered as ending the wish of the God of the Bible, who had died on the battlefield because of the seal. After the meeting, Noah also did three things. First, he borrowed the Holy Grail, and used the power of the Holy Grail to restore the broken arm of Clon Kuvok. Second, he brought the Holy Grail to Gasper, and let Gasper fuse the Holy Grail back into Valerie's body, awakening this mixed-blood vampire who had been innocent from the beginning to the end. Third, he accepted Shiva's challenge, and had a duel with the god of destruction in the alternate space. No one followed him to that duel. Only Orpheus, Lilith Aster, and Athena witnessed the entire duel. When Noah and Shiva came out of the alternate space, Shiva made a public announcement. "I'm no match for the God-Slayer. He has the qualifications to replace me and become the second in the top 10 in the world." This result was not out of anyone's expectations, because as long as he had the power of another cosmology, Noah would definitely not lose to existences other than humans. As for humans, how many could win against Noah, who used Tyrannosaurus, who was between 3 and 4 digits, and who was on the same level as Orpheus and Lilith? No one. Under such circumstances, Noah was truly invincible. In addition, Orpheus and Lilith had both become Noah's contracted servants. In the end, Noah replaced Orpheus' position, and became the first in the rankings. As for Orpheus and Lilith, they were both ranked second. The storm gradually subsided, and the world ushered in peace. After that, Noah lived a peaceful school life for a period of time. While living with Orpheus, Lilith, Austin, and Athena, he continued to train the Jumanli's family. That was because Leah's was finally ready to make her debut and began to stand out in the ranking game. And Leah's first opponent was actually Saratog, who had met Noah once and even fought once. Soon the day of the competition arrived. On this day, in the training space of the Jumanli family, Noah looked at the group of students in front of him and faintly smiled. Looks like you are very nervous. Everyone, including Leah's, had a trace of nervousness on their faces. The timid Gasper was even about to cry. All right, since there is still some time, you should quickly adjust. We will be leaving for the underworld soon. Noah looked around at everyone. Let me see. Thank you for your growth during this time. Yes, teacher. Everyone agreed in a loud and clear voice. Chapter 1969. The ranking game between Jumanli's kin and Baal's kin was something worth paying attention to in the underworld. It wasn't because they were the next leaders of the famous Jumanli and Baal families, but because the Jumanli and Baal families were very active in the war against the Disaster Syndicate. In the final battle against the Disaster Syndicate, Jiminori's kin was selected as one of the few elites to enter the alternate dimension to deal with the legendary level Evil Dragon. They even personally killed a Dragon King level Evil Dragon. This news had already spread throughout the underworld. Baal's kin had also performed outstandingly against the Evil Dragon army. Saraoj's fists had crushed countless mass-produced evil dragons. Therefore, although both of them were new generation demons, they were much stronger than many demons who had participated in the ranking game for a long time in terms of strength alone. The leaders of the demon realm all agreed that both Leith and Saraoj would rise to the top of the rankings in a short time once they debuted. Because of this, the ranking game between the Jemengli family and the Baal family was quite interesting. Under such circumstances, both sides chose a very special place for their ranking games. An island floating in the air. It was a floating city located in the territory of Grand Duke Agars. There was only one island in the entire underworld. It was said that it was a city that had existed since the era of the old Demon King. Even in the underworld, it was a famous tourist attraction that was rarely seen. It even monopolized the economic circulation of the surrounding area, and was often chosen as the venue for ranked games. One of the reasons why this city was chosen as the ranking game venue for the Jumanli and Baal families was because it was very famous. As for the second reason, it was because the Grand Duke's family was a neutral faction. As mentioned before, the current Demon King wasn't one of the 4 legendary Demon Kings, nor was it a hereditary Demon King family. Instead, it was a powerful and capable Demon King chosen from among the demons to assume the role. To the ancient demons who valued bloodlines, the Baal royal family's political authority was even higher than that of the Demon King. Because of this, the upper echelons of the demon world were basically divided into the Demon King faction that valued reform and the King faction that valued tradition. The two sides had always had various conflicts in various political decisions. As a result, the Demon King faction and the Great King faction had been arguing over the location of the ranking game. The demons of the Demon King faction hoped that this ranking game could be held in the Gimli domain. After all, Demon King Lucifer was a member of the Gimli family. The competition for the next Gimli family head would naturally be held in the Gimli domain. However, the demons of the King faction also strongly requested that this ranking game be held in Baal Hill. Isn't that also the debut competition for the next head of the Bar family? In the end, the two sides continued to argue and were unable to decide on the venue for the competition. In the end, Duke Agars, who had remained neutral all this while and was in charge of mediating between the Demon King and the King, stood out and set the venue of the match at the floating city of the neutral Agars domain. Only then did the dispute come to an end. There were 3 ways to enter the city. The first method was to use a teleportation array to teleport. However, because this city was both an important place and a world heritage, it was naturally impossible to enter and leave so casually. Usually, there was a barrier to intercept and transfer means, and it was only provided to VIPs during important festivals. The second method was to take an aerial vehicle such as an airship. Under normal circumstances, this was the proper way to enter the city. Most demons used this method to enter the city. The third method was to use the cable car extended from the city and take the cable car to enter the city. This was provided for the residents near the territory to use. Noah and the Gimli family used the first method. As VIPs and contestants, they used a special teleportation array to directly jump into the city and enter the competition venue. In front of a corridor inside the competition venue, Noah and the Gimli family stopped in their tracks. Noah turned his head and looked at the Zamanlis family. Next, you will go directly to the special passage for the contestants, and I will go directly to the VIP room to watch the whole process of the competition. A VIP room? Lasvius said thoughtfully. That seems to be a special VIP seat that only the Demon King, Grand Duke, and the VIPs of various mythical organizations can go to, right? Yes. Noah nodded. This time, apart from the demons, the angels, fallen angels, and the main gods of various mythical organizations will all come to watch the competition. This has never happened before. In other words, our competition will not only be watched by the people of the demon realm, but also by all the mythical organizations in the world? Irina's pretty face tensed up. I feel like I'm getting more and more nervous. Yes. Genova's expression was no different from before, but one could faintly see that her gaze was a bit erratic. Even the angels are coming to watch the competition. If we embarrass ourselves, we will definitely be laughed at by our former colleagues, right? I'm starting to get nervous too, Isha said nervously. I hope I won't drag everyone down. Don't worry, Senior Isha, Kitten comforted her. Senior Isha is already very outstanding. She won't drag everyone down. You don't have to worry about dragging everyone down, but our opponent is Lord Saratog of the Ball Royal family. He's the #1 demon of the new generation. Label sighed. I feel like it'll be a tough battle. It'll definitely be tough, but we've already defeated an evil dragon of the Dragon King level. It won't be a problem. Yudu tried to cheer everyone up. Everyone, don't give up so easily. Yudu's right. Leah's nodded heavily. No matter what kind of opponent we face, we can't give up so easily. This is our debut competition, so we must fight beautifully. Yes, Junai said with a smile, cupping one side of his face. We can't embarrass the president. I'll do my best too. Gasper raised his hand weakly, but his eyes were resolute. I've already promised Valerie that I'll win, so I definitely can't lose. After hearing those words, the Jamanli's subordinates all revealed unswerving determination, and their eyes began to burn with fighting spirit. Very good, Noah said with satisfaction. Then let me look forward to seeing your performance. With that, Noah's expression softened. He stepped forward, patted Isha and Kitten's heads, and spoke softly. I hope I can see your victory before I leave. Hearing this, the eyes of the Zeeming family members trembled slightly. Then their gazes became even more resolute. After parting with the Jimins, Noah went straight to the VIP room. Under the respectful attitude of the 2 demon guards at the door, he walked into the extremely luxurious room. Oh, Azazel, who was chatting with Sizax, was the first to notice Noah, and revealed a typical smirk. He's here, he's here. Hearing Azazel's words, everyone's eyes turned to Noah, and they all stood up subconsciously to greet Noah. Obviously, although Noah was alone, none of the famous Azuras here dared to look down on him. After all, although the person in front of them was just a human, he was recognized as the world's #1 and was absolutely invincible. Now the group of Azuras, who had already understood how terrifying Noah was, naturally did not dare to slight him, and all of them were polite to him. Noah also did not embarrass these Azuras, and responded to them one by one. Then he came to Azazel and Sizax and sat down. In front of everyone, a projection screen was unfolding. On it, a Roman Colosseum was projected. Around the arena, the ring-shaped auditorium was almost full of people, and it was even more lively than the great demonic battle exhibition that Noah had participated in. In the arena, the Jimins and Bales families had already arrived, and everyone cheered. Lias led her family, and there was no longer any nervousness on her face. Instead, there was the same elegance and confidence as before. Saraog also led his family, and looked at the Jimins with a relaxed smile on his face, exuding a domineering aura. Under such circumstances, the competition began. Chapter 1970. The game between the Daemonli's kin and the Bales kin was played by rolling dice. The rules were as follows. Each side had a dice. Before the start of each game, both sides had to roll the dice to determine the total number. Based on this number, both sides could send out their kin with the same value as the demon's chess piece. This so-called value evaluation was to calculate the pawn as 1, and the rest of the chess pieces were determined according to their value. Queen was equivalent to 9 pawn, so it was calculated as 9. Rook was equivalent to 5 pawn, so it was calculated as 5. Knight and bishop were equivalent to 3 pawn, so they were counted as 3. Under this calculation, both sides would roll the dice, and finally send out their kin with the same value as the number of dice rolled. For example, if both Laius and Saraj rolled a 4, then the total number was 8, and both sides could only send out chess pieces with the same number. Using 8 as an example, he would be able to send out a rook, a knight, or a bishop. Of course, if they rolled an 8, then they could send out 8 pawns. As long as the value of the chess piece was equal to the number of dice rolled, then they could play. In other words, if they wanted to send out a queen, then the number they rolled must be 9 or above. If they wanted to send out a rook, then the number they rolled must be 5 or above. If they wanted to send out a knight and a bishop, then the number they rolled must be 3 or above. If they wanted to send out a pawn, then they had to roll the number of the chess piece they used. For example, both Aisha and Irina used 4 pawns to be reincarnated, so they had to roll a number of 4 or above before they could be sent out. As for the king, if they wanted to play, then they had to roll a number that the officials estimated based on the comprehensive evaluation of both sides. According to the estimation of the higher-ups, as the number 1 demon of the new generation, and having reached the level of the highest demon, Saroj's value was 12, while Leah's value was 9. As long as the highest value was 12, Saroj would be able to go on stage, while Laius only needed to roll a 9 to be able to go on stage. However, in all ranking games there was one rule that was universal. That was, once the king was defeated, the game would be over, and the defeated party would be defeated. Under such circumstances, both sides continued to play. The defeated chess piece could not be sent out again until the king was defeated. Only then would the game be considered over. Oh! Amidst the cheers of the audience, the Jemengli family and the Ball family began their match. Moreover, the battle situation was very intense. Only half an hour had passed since the start of the competition, and there had already been 3 matches. In the first match, both sides threw a total of 3 and sent out a knight. In this match, Laius's spawn was Yudu. Yudu did not disappoint Noah. He displayed the results of his special training. As soon as he appeared, he immediately took out the demon Empyrean sword, and displayed his extraordinary strength. He easily defeated Bari's subordinate, Knight, and easily won the battle. In the second match, both sides threw a total of 10, which greatly increased the number of family members they could send out. In the end, Laius sent out the 2 rooks, Kitten and Los Valles, while Saroj sent out a rook and a knight. This match was not as predictable as the previous one, and both sides clashed fiercely. In the end, the kitten made the sacrifice with a resolute expression, and firmly held back the opponent's rook and knight. This allowed Lothvias to launch a large-scale magic attack in all directions. Other than Lothvias, everyone else was forced to leave the battlefield. In the third match, both sides threw a total of 8. In this match, Laius sent out Rebel, who was a bishop, and Irina, who was a pawn. They were worth a total of 7, and if they threw a total of 8, they could definitely fight. Although Isha and Irina would have a total of 8, Isha had no combat power, and naturally did not fight. She stayed in the contestants' area and healed and recovered those who had fought, ensuring that everyone could fight in their best condition in every match. As for Saroj, he sent out a rook and a bishop. And so the match ended there. In the VIP room, Noah could clearly see that Rebel and Irina were having a hard time dealing with the attacks of Saroj's rook and bishop. However, the two seemed to have taken the wrong medicine, and fought with all their might. They're fighting a little too hard, aren't they? Asashel said in astonishment. Could it be that they've suffered some kind of shock? They're fighting a little too hard. Sazax frowned slightly and said as if he could not bear to see it. In the last match, Kitten and Los Valles were also fighting with all their might. Kitten even took the initiative to sacrifice herself, and Los Valles did not hold back at all as he bombarded Kitten as well. Even if it's normal to abandon a piece in a match, they're fighting a little too hard. Now that I think about it, Kiba Yuto was also fighting with his life on the line. The moment he appeared, he used his full strength. He didn't even hesitate to use a weapon like the Demon Empyrean sword, which consumes a lot of energy. Asashel was puzzled. What's going on? Noah was silent for a while before calmly speaking. They just want to win, for themselves and for me. For you? Sazax and Asashel both looked at Noah with startled expressions. Noah's eyes never left the screen as he said calmly. After the match, I plan to leave for a while. What? Both Sazax and Asashel exclaimed, attracting the attention of the people around them. Only then did the two react and quickly smiled apologetically. What's going on? Sazax could not help but ask. Isn't this a little too sudden? Come on, you're now the world's suppression force. Although it's embarrassing, world peace basically depends on you alone. Asashel smiled bitterly. If you leave, those mythical organizations that finally compromised will definitely be restless again. Don't worry, even if I don't appear, no one will think that I'm dead. They won't joke about the survival of their mythical organizations before I die. Noah's eyes never left the screen as he said this. So, what you're worried about won't happen. You can continue to work hard for world peace. Sazax and Asashel thought about it carefully and felt that it made sense. Then where are you going? Sazax asked. Why do you suddenly want to leave? I have my own things to do. Noah smiled slightly. Why? Are you worried that something will happen to me? You better be so easy to get into trouble. Asashel rolled his eyes. Even the infinite dragon god has become your servant, and you've sealed the beast emperor. I really can't think of anyone who can cause you to get into trouble. Then isn't it settled? Noah shrugged. So accompany me to the end of this match. Both Sazax and Asashel nodded solemnly. The three of them watched the entire process of the match with extremely serious expressions. During this time, the three of them chatted a lot, causing a faint melancholy to fill the air. In the end, the Zamanli's kin successfully defeated the Baal's kin and won. Looking at the Zamanli's kin who were laughing and crying at the same time, Noah's gaze became gentle. Well done, my students. This way, Noah could leave without any regrets. As for Noah's impending departure, Sazax and Asashel only told a very limited number of people, and the rest did not know anything. That night, the four great demon kings, Sazax, Achuka, Seraph, and Felubium, brought the Zamanli's kin and Sidi's kin to hold a banquet under Asashel's organization. At the banquet, Noah, as the main character, was constantly forced to drink by a group of people, but he was always laughing and fooling around with the crowd for the entire night. It was said that after getting drunk, Aisha and Kitten secretly kissed Noah, and even Labal. It was said that Seraph, who was also drunk, seemed to want to have a passionate night with Noah, but was finally stopped by Leah's and Song. It was said that even Vala's team came later, and were dragged by Asashel to drink a lot of wine. It was said that the next day, after everyone was drunk, only Noah walked out of the banquet alone and left the underworld. However, to be more precise, it should be said that he left this world. Chapter 1971. Warm sunlight slowly sprinkled down from the sky, illuminating a small but elegantly designed atrium, illuminating the green lawn. In the lawn, there were trees, flowers, water, and round tables and stone chairs made of marble. It was like a theme park somewhere. And in this elegant atrium, a young girl stood facing the wind. Her light golden hair that reached her waist fluttered in the wind, as if it was emitting a radiance. Her tight blue and white dress swayed back and forth in the wind. The young girl stood in the wind with her eyes closed. She slowly opened her hands, as if there was something extremely precious in front of her, and held it in the palm of her hand. Clang! At this moment, a soft white light bloomed from the young girl's slender hands, as if she was holding something. That white light was neither strong nor dazzling. It could only be considered bright, and it dyed the surrounding area with a pure white color. Such a soft and gorgeous white light. If it was seen by those who loved beauty, they would definitely be unable to help but approach it. Like a young girl, they would reach out their hands and gently hold that ball of light, right? However, generally speaking, the more beautiful something was, the more hidden behind it were sharp thorns that others could not profane. For example, the soft and gorgeous ball of light in the young girl's hand. Buzz! At a certain moment, the soft white light that bloomed in the young girl's hand suddenly trembled, as if it was stimulated by something, and became chaotic. The young girl's beautiful face suddenly became a little tense, and a drop of sweat dripped down her delicate cheeks, down her thin chin, and dripped to the ground. Obviously, the young girl was a little strained. In order to control the power in her hand, the young girl used almost all of her mind, but that only slightly delayed the time when she lost control. Not long after, the gorgeous ball of light in the young girl's hand suddenly expanded. From the size of a crystal ball, it instantly surged and covered the area around the young girl. Under the shroud of the white light, the ground began to tremble, and even the atmosphere began to emit a sorrowful cry, as if it had encountered a disaster. Just when the young girl finally could not control the power in her hand, and was about to let that terrifying power go out of control, a figure suddenly appeared beside her. Kacha! With a soft sound, a wristband was clasped around the girl's wrist by a figure that suddenly appeared. Suddenly, the dazzling white light trembled and dissipated like a firefly. It turned into specks of starlight and disappeared into the world. "All right, that's enough," the person said to the young girl with an unquestionable tone. "Let's stop here for today. We can't continue like this." Hearing this, the girl let out a long breath and slowly opened her eyes. It was a pair of eyes that were deeper in color than the girl's hair. They shone like gems. However, that pair of beautiful eyes were filled with depression at this very moment. "Did I fail again?" The young girl couldn't help but mutter, her tone filled with dejection. "I thought I would be able to do it today." Compared to the beginning, he has indeed improved a lot. He can already control this power to a certain extent. The person sighed. "It's a pity that it hasn't been long since you obtained this power, and this power is so strong. To be able to control it to this extent in such a short period of time is already very rare." Of course, the young girl knew. It was because she was the one who had this power. Compared to others, the young girl knew how strong this power was. However, it was precisely because it was powerful that it was not easy to completely control this power. In this city that was known as the center of the world, the young girl was already at the peak of all the people with power. However, she could only control this power to a certain extent. It was enough to see how strong this power was. Of course, in reality, how strong this power was also different from person to person. After all, no matter how strong it was only magic. The amount of power it could unleash was completely dependent on the magic power of the user. Until now, the young girl still couldn't completely control this powerful magic. Firstly, it was the type that was extremely difficult to control. Secondly, the young girl's spiritual energy that could be converted into magic power was extremely powerful. This allowed the power of this magic to be fully unleashed, making it even more difficult to control. However, with this magic, the young girl's power would increase by several levels. Thus, the young girl slightly shifted her gaze and looked at her companion. To put it bluntly, the young girl's appearance could already be considered as extremely beautiful. Even compared to the perfect goddesses from the heavens, she definitely wouldn't lose out in the slightest. However, the young girl's companion also had an extremely beautiful appearance. Soft emerald long hair and eyes of the same color. Her slender figure gave people the impression of being graceful, but also had a kind of delicate beauty. Her white skin seemed to be crystal clear, and her whole body exuded a clever and heroic temperament. In addition to her beautiful appearance, the other party also had a noble bloodline. That pair of long ears told everyone that this beautiful person was an elf. Moreover, she was a royal among the elves. Looking at this beauty who was respected and looked forward to even among the elves, the young girl called out softly, "Riveria, don't even think about it." Riveria seemed to know what the young girl was planning to do and immediately blocked her with a sentence. "Today's practice will end here. You're not allowed to continue practicing. You can only practice one morning a day. This is what we agreed on." "Do you want to go back on your words?" AIC. "But," AIC said somewhat dejectedly, "I want to practice this crushing magic well." "I know. I also want to see you practice it well. Otherwise, Who knows when you will force yourself to use it against your enemies in the underground city. At that time, if this magic goes out of control, it will be a problem for your life. Riveria shook her head. But AIC, you have to know that although this magic is powerful, it also consumes a frightening amount of spiritual energy. If you force yourself to continue practicing it, it's one thing for your spiritual energy to be exhausted, but I'm afraid that you will suffer a spiritual backlash. At that time, even I won't be able to save you. I'm doing this for your own good. Saying such a sentence, Riveria once again spoke in an unquestionable tone. No matter what, I'll only allow you to practice one morning a day. If you want to continue practicing, you have to wait until tomorrow. Today you're not allowed to practice. AIC immediately lowered her head in disappointment. Seeing AIC like this, Riveria didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm starting to regret letting you learn from that person, Riveria sighed and said. If I knew that he would teach you such a dangerous and troublesome magic spell, I would have stopped you. But there's a higher possibility that you wouldn't listen even if I stopped you. AIC immediately shut her mouth and didn't dare to say another word. Seeing AIC lowering her head like a child who had done something wrong and was worried about being scolded, Riveria felt angry and amused at the same time. All right, I'm just telling you not to practice it for the time being. It's not like I'm not allowing you to practice it. For safety's sake, you can continue practicing crush magic tomorrow, Riveria said in annoyance. You can use the afternoon to practice your swordsmanship. You can even go to the underground city. At most, I won't stop you, okay? AIC perked up her spirits. But, Riveria added in a serious tone, you're not allowed to go too deep. You have to return before the sky turns dark. Not long later, our clan tribe will be going to the deeper regions. At this crucial time, you can't be injured, understand? AIC immediately nodded. Riveria was satisfied and turned around. Just as she was about to leave, a voice came from behind. Thank you, Riveria. Hearing this, Riveria's footsteps paused for a moment before she recovered, and a gentle smile hung on her face. To Riveria, AIC was like her own daughter. Otherwise, she wouldn't accompany her to practice magic every day. Although AIC had always been rather taciturn, Riveria knew that this young girl's heart was far warmer than her cold appearance. What's more, compared to the past, AIC had changed a little recently. This is all thanks to that man. What an incredible man, no Adoria. Chapter 1972. The Labyrinth City Olalai. It was famous for being built on top of the underground city. It was a city surrounded by a strong city wall. The exterior of the city wall was an almost endless stretch of flat land. Inside the city wall, there were all kinds of buildings. In the center of the city, there was a huge tower that almost reached the sky. It was a skyscraper that was built on top of the lid of the underground city and connected to the entrance of the underground city, the Tower of Babel. Looking down from above, one could clearly see that within the labyrinth city of Orly, the 8 main streets were all connected to the tower, causing the central plaza surrounding the tower to appear as though it was filled with a sea of people. If it were not for the fact that it was noon and most of the adventurers had entered the underground city and had not yet returned, the central square would have been completely filled with adventurers. Even now, the entire city was still extremely noisy. Fully armed adventurers and supporters carrying large backpacks were coming and going. Some entered the Tower of Babel and went to the underground city, while others came out of the underground city. People were coming and going, and it was very lively. However, this lively atmosphere was disrupted at some point. On one of the streets that led to the central square, where the Tower of Babel was located, there was a sudden commotion. There was only one reason for this commotion. That was a beautiful girl with light golden hair that reached her waist. She was wearing a blue and white skin-tight dress, and a thin sword at her waist. She was walking slowly on the street. The newcomer was naturally Ace, who was allowed to enter the underground city by Riveria. Of course, even without Riveria's permission, Ace would go to the underground city almost every day when she could not practice crushing magic. Exploring the underground city's labyrinth could be said to have occupied Ace's entire life. That was because only by doing so, Ace could become stronger. Seeing A's walking slowly from the other side of the street, the surrounding adventurers began to sigh. Is she here again? She comes to explore the underground city almost every day. Undoubtedly, she is a level 1 adventurer and a LV6 level 1 adventurer. She even comes to explore the dungeon every day. No wonder she is known as the warrior concubine. If I become a LV6 adventurer, then I don't want to suffer so much. I will definitely swagger around and let others serve me every day. That's why you can only play a small role and never become a big shot. What did you say? What are you doing? Do you want to fight? MLE? What's so great about it? Me too. Amidst the commotion of the people around her, AIC walked forward while thinking about this for the umpteenth time. This city was still so lively. However, at the same time, AIC felt a sense of loneliness. Everyone around her was bustling with noise and excitement, while she was the only one left. She felt like she was out of place, and this made her feel a little depressed. Although she appeared cold, AIC was not an arrogant person. On the contrary, just like what Riveria said, AIC was a girl who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Moreover, AIC's cold appearance was not intentional. It was just that this girl was not good at expressing her emotions, so she gave people a cold feeling. The gods gave AIC the title Swordswoman. Adventurers also called AIC the warrior concubine. But in fact, AIC was just a very ordinary girl. She would be happy when she saw interesting things. She would be sad when she encountered sad things. She would like cute things. She would hate disgusting things. However, AIC rarely showed these on her face, making people feel that this girl was very cold and gorgeous. Of course, when others were laughing happily, AIC would also feel envious. It would be great if Tiona could come with us. AIC subconsciously blurted out. However, unlike AIC, who was obsessed with improving her strength, Tiona, the pair of Amazons, although they were LV5 adventurers, they would not go into the underground city for no reason. They knew how to enjoy life very well. Now those two sisters were probably with Leafia and had run off somewhere to play. Thinking of this, AIC came to the front of the Tower of Babel. As soon as she came here, a bigger commotion than before broke out. AIC thought that the commotion was because of her arrival, but she soon noticed that the surrounding adventurers were talking about it. Quick! Look over there. That person? Isn't that the tyrant? Tyrant. Just like how AIC was given the title Swordswoman by the gods, this was also a title. However, this title had only appeared in Eulalie recently. It had spread at an unimaginable speed, and everyone knew about it, because the owner of this title was undoubtedly the most famous person in the entire Maze City recently. Apollo's minions were defeated by him alone in the war game, and were driven out of Eulalie. The main god of Freya's minions had endless love for him, but was rejected. The only LV7 in the Maze City was once forced to retreat by him. The gods were all eyeing him covetously, and were always thinking of poaching him into their minions. Moreover, he was an important benefactor who taught crushing magic to AIC and let AIC get what she wanted. So AIC was stunned for a moment, then raised her eyes and looked forward. The next second AIC saw it. In front of the entrance of the Tower of Babel, a figure was standing there. The Maze City Eulalie. Noah looked at the vast square in front of him with people coming and going. Looking around the bustling city, a faint smile appeared on his young face. It hasn't changed at all. That was to be expected. It had only been a month. How could this bustling city, which had been developing since ancient times, have changed so much? However, for Noah, everything in front of him was somewhat nostalgic. There was no other reason. According to Noah's sense of time, he had been away from this world for nearly a year. He came back after nearly a year, and when he saw everything in front of him again, he naturally felt very nostalgic. Of course, this nostalgic feeling immediately disappeared in the next second, because an extremely scorching gaze was cast from the direction of the Tower of Babel, and fell on Noah's body. Feeling the scorching gaze that seemed to want to swallow him whole, the smile on Noah's face slowly disappeared. He turned his head and looked at the top of the Tower of Babel. His pitch-black eyes were filled with a sharp light that was as cold as the edge of a blade. Under such circumstances, the scorching hot gaze trembled slightly. Immediately, it retreated as though it was afraid. Noah could not help but twitch his mouth and withdraw his gaze in boredom. He lifted his feet and immediately wanted to leave. At this time, a soft voice rang out. "You're back." Hearing this voice, Noah stopped in his tracks and turned his head to look at the source of the voice. Over there, a young girl with a peerlessly beautiful appearance was staring at Noah with her gem-like eyes. There was not a single trace of emotion on her delicate face. Noah was stunned and said in surprise, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" "Can't I?" AIC blinked. Although her expression did not change, she seemed to have suffered a blow. "Am I in your way?" "No. No." Noah hurriedly shook his head and waved his hand. "I thought it was that boring beauty who came to find trouble with me again." "Beauty?" AIC was stunned, and then she remembered something and understood. "It seems that you are going to the dungeon, right?" Noah looked at AIC, who was neatly dressed, and scratched his cheek. "So I should be the one in your way?" Looking at Noah scratching his cheek, as if he was considering whether to leave or not, AIC hesitated for a while, and then subconsciously spoke. "No, I am not going to the dungeon." After saying that, AIC lowered her head and felt a sense of guilt in her heart. This was definitely the first time AIC lied. However, she did not know why, but compared to going to the dungeon, AIC wanted to talk to the person in front of her more, even if it was just for a while. Chapter 1973. In the end, AIC didn't enter the underground city. Instead, she sat down with Noah on a bench beside the fountain in the central square, and actually started chatting. Noah asked AIC about the recent situation of Hastia's clan. However, AIC was basically clueless. That was because she had been hiding in the base camp of Loki's clan for the past month to train her crushing magic. She didn't have the spare energy to care about the situation outside. AIC then asked Noah about his gains in the underground city. Unfortunately, after Noah entered the underground city, he directly left this world not long after, and only returned today. And as soon as he returned, he immediately left the underground city. What gains could he possibly have? Thus, Noah gave a perfunctory reply and easily avoided the question of the pure and kind AIC. At this moment, AIC was sizing up Noah. She tilted her head and asked in puzzlement, "What are you talking about? I feel like you're not the same as before." "Really?" Noah raised an eyebrow and asked curiously, "What's different about me?" "I can't put my finger on it." AIC raised her beautiful eyebrows and hesitated for a moment before speaking in a trembling voice. "You feel like you're much more noble than before?" After hearing AIC's words, Noah somewhat understood. Perhaps it was because he had obtained the third perpetual motion machine, Ling? Before he obtained the Ling, Noah was just a human. Even if he had great power, and was essentially a fragment of the original world, the world allowed Noah to be born as a human. Noah would always be a human. And after obtaining the Ling, from a certain point of view, Noah could be considered to have improved. That was because the spirit level represented merit and inheritance. Dragons gave birth to dragons, rats gave birth to rats, and the sons of rats could dig holes. After obtaining the Ling, Noah's status as a human had also risen to the highest point, just like how a carp had become a divine dragon. In the eyes of others, it was natural that he was much more noble. In the past, didn't Letitia and Pest say that Noah had some changes after obtaining the Ling? It seemed that AIC had also noticed this change. He guessed that the beauty on the Tower of Babel had also noticed the change in Noah, so her gaze became more intense than before. With that thought in mind, Noah didn't hide it from AIC. "I've had some fortuitous encounters recently, so it's natural for me to change a little." Hearing this, AIC shifted her gaze to Noah. She stared straight at Noah, and only spoke after a while. "You've become stronger again?" "Become stronger?" Noah laughed bitterly. "I don't know if it counts." Compared to before he left this world, Noah had indeed changed a lot. At that time, Noah's authority was still on him. If he fully unleashed it, it would be more than enough to reach Hakata's 3 digits. After all, at the time, Noah was already able to use 2 clones of authority at the same time, and could unleash them for a short period of time. Now, if Noah unleashed his full power, it would be between 3 and 4 digits when he used the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Compared to before he left this world, it was much weaker. However, before he left this world, although Noah could use 2 clones of authority at the same time, reaching 3 digits, it was only temporary. The consumption and burden were huge. On one hand, he could reach 3 digits for a short period of time. On the other hand, he could reach 3 to 4 digits without any side effects. As for which side was better, he really didn't know how to calculate. There was only one thing that he was certain of. That was, although Noah had changed a lot, the impact on his strength was almost negligible. Because, with the power of Avesta and illusory star Tisway, as long as the opponent was not a human, he would not lose no matter what. And if the opponent was a human, with the power between 3 and 4 digits, it was enough to sweep through everything. At least, that was the case in the world of Demon Academy, and it was also the case in this world. Even if he explained this to AIC, with AIC's ability to understand, this natural girl's brain would probably short-circuit, right? Therefore, Noah shrugged and said so. I can only say that the change is huge. As for whether it is stronger or not, it depends on who the opponent is. Is that so? AIC nodded, not knowing if she understood or not. She touched the bracelet on her wrist. But I haven't been able to practice crush magic well. You haven't been able to practice it well. Noah laughed. That's normal. How long has it been since you got crush magic? Back then, in order to practice this magic well, I had to practice it deep in the mountains and forests for 4 whole years. For years? AIC was confused. Do you need that long? Well, my situation is because my own magic is too strong, causing the power of crush magic to be too strong. It is even more difficult to control, so it took me 4 years. Noah looked at AIC as if he could see through her soul, and said so. As for you, although your spiritual force is very strong, it has not reached the level of my childhood. With your talent and hard work, coupled with the assistance of LV6 ability value, if it goes well in a few months, you should be able to apply it more or less in combat. A few months. AIC couldn't help but ask. A few months is only enough to apply it in battle? You should be satisfied. Noah said in a bad mood. The person who taught crush magic to me has been using it for decades, and he hasn't fully controlled it yet. It's already a good result for you to be able to apply it in battle. After that, Noah stretched out his hand and gently stroked AIC's head. AIC was stunned for a moment. Don't worry, there is nothing wrong with pursuing power, but if you blindly pursue power, then there is no benefit at all. Noah smiled slightly. As long as you are down to earth, this magic will become your strength sooner or later. You are the swordswoman, the most talented adventurer in the whole Eulalia. Have some confidence in yourself. AIC looked at the smiling Noah in a daze, feeling the warm big hand on her head, and couldn't help but feel lost in her heart. AIC lost her parents when she was a child, joined the Rosai family, and became a member of the Rosai family. Since then, AIC had been fighting in the dungeons to become stronger. She didn't even have time for entertainment and relaxation. If it wasn't for Riveria, Tiona, and Tiona accompanying her, she wouldn't be cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Instead, she would be a walking corpse from head to toe. Under such circumstances, AIC couldn't remember how many years it had been since she was touched by someone so gently. The last time she was touched like this, it seemed to be before her parents passed away, right? Therefore, AIC couldn't help but be immersed in the feeling that she hadn't felt for a long time. For a moment, she kept looking at Noah and didn't look away. Being stared at by AIC like this, it was Noah who felt a little unnatural. Seeing that Noah's expression had become unnatural, AIC also reacted, and her beautiful face actually blushed slightly. The atmosphere between the two suddenly became a little ambiguous, causing Noah and AIC to turn their heads at the same time with an embarrassed look. But they didn't know that this kind of behavior was almost the same as a couple in love. At least, that was the case in the eyes of others. In the eyes of those with ulterior motives. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of glass shattering, The wine glass was crushed by a slender jade hand. Scarlet liquid immediately dripped from the hand, and it was unknown whether it was red wine or blood. Freya stood in front of the wall-like glass window, looking down at Noah and AIC, who looked like a young and shy couple in love. Her chest heaved up and down violently. As the goddess of beauty, who wielded the power of love, how could Freya not understand why she had such a strong reaction? Because of jealousy. The man that she had given up everything to get was interacting with another girl like this. As long as it was a girl, she would more or less feel a little jealous. But Freya's jealousy was not just a little bit, it was surging like the ocean. Haha. Freya laughed self-deprecatingly. I never thought that one day, I would be so jealous of a child from the lower realm. Freya said so with a rose-like smile, licking the red wine and blood in her hand little by little. Just a little. I want to play games with that child. Chapter 1974. Time passed by slowly. Unknowingly, dusk had arrived. Noah and AIC, who had been chatting by the fountain in the central plaza for the entire afternoon, finally noticed the time and stopped chatting. Alright, it's getting late. I should head back. Noah stood up, stretched his back, and said to AIC who was beside him, I just came back from the underground city. I haven't gone back yet. I wonder how Hestia, Belle, and Lily are doing. I should head back too. AIC nodded and stood up as well. Riveria told me not to go back too late. We have to go on an expedition to the deeper regions soon. If I don't go back early, everyone in the tribe will be worried. An expedition? Noah nodded thoughtfully. I remember you guys went on an expedition before, but you guys turned back halfway, right? AIC nodded and confirmed Noah's statement. She even explained. She also explained, on the 51st floor, we encountered monsters that could dissolve weapons. Those monsters were very troublesome. If we continued to fight, everyone's weapons would dissolve, and we would be reduced to fighting without weapons. Our combat power would be greatly reduced, so Finn ordered us to retreat. Monsters that dissolve weapons? Noah raised an eyebrow. I've been to the 51st floor, but I didn't encounter such monsters. You've been to the 51st floor. AIC was a little startled and asked with uncertainty. Alone? Yes. Noah nodded. Alone. You're really strong. AIC's voice became a little softer as though she was stimulated. I want to be as strong as you too. You will be sooner or later. Noah smiled bitterly and patted AIC's head comfortingly. You're still young anyway. AIC seemed to be a little dissatisfied and muttered softly. Undoubtedly, you're not much older than me. AIC didn't reject Noah's head patting and seemed to be enjoying it. After chatting for an entire afternoon, the relationship between the two of them progressed at an incredible speed. In the beginning, Noah felt a little embarrassed to treat AIC this way. The first time he touched AIC's head, it could be said that he did it subconsciously. Later on, Noah gradually felt that AIC was like a cute little sister, making him feel closer and closer to her. At the same time, he also felt a little emotional. This young girl, except for the fact that she didn't seem like a girl when it came to pursuing power, was just an ordinary girl in all other aspects. AIC, who didn't know what Noah was thinking, answered his question. The 51st floor is very big. Some areas haven't even been mapped out in detail. If you went to places that were recorded on the map, you probably missed those monsters. Is that so? Noah suddenly understood. Well, it's not a bad thing anyway. Hearing this, AIC stole a glance at Noah. After hesitating for a while, she asked carefully, Do you want to come with us during the expedition? Me? Noah was stunned for a moment, and then he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm a member of a different clan tribe from you. And the goal of the expedition is the unreached area, which is the floor that hasn't been conquered yet. If we can conquer a floor that no one has been to, it's undoubtedly pioneering. With such great benefits and glory, is it appropriate for me to share it with you? It's okay. AIC didn't have much hope at first, but seeing that Noah didn't directly refuse, she suddenly mustered up her courage. The last expedition was due to the consumption of weapons. This time Loki and Finn have made a lot of preparations. They even invited the blacksmiths of Hephaestus's clan tribe to help us repair and forge weapons. Your clan tribe can also participate. Did Loki's spawn hire Hephaestus's spawn? Noah asked with a smile. Even so, it's very difficult for our clan tribe to participate in your expedition. Let's not talk about the fact that there are only 3 members in our clan tribe, and 2 of them are all LV. 1 low-level adventurers, and 1 of them is even a support. Let's talk about the matter of your overgod. Is it possible for him to cooperate with my overgod to conquer the unreached area? AIC was suddenly speechless. That's right. Let's not talk about other things, just the grudge between Hasti and Loki was a threshold that couldn't be crossed. The 2 were like natural enemies. Even if it wasn't to the point of life and death, it was to the point of bitter hatred. How could such a big thing as an expedition to the dungeon and reclaiming the unreached area be possible? Moreover, the problem that Noah mentioned was also a problem. If Loki's clan really wanted to invite someone to explore the buried city with them, it would be a powerful clan like Freya's clan, not a small clan with only 3 members like Hastia's clan. I think your power is already sufficient. AIC was silent for a moment before she said this. If it were you, Loki would definitely consider it. After all, even though Loki hated Hestia, he had always been eyeing Noah and even thought highly of Noah. As the saying goes, love the house and its crow, hate the house and its crow. Even though Loki was not on good terms with Hestia, he still thought highly of Noah, who was a member of Hestia's clan. It was enough to show how much Loki valued Noah. If it was Noah, Loki might really consider it, right? At this moment, even Noah began to ponder. Although he was not like other adventurers who explored dungeons as their career, as a man who did not want to take risks. That was how the buried city attracted everyone's curiosity and adventurous spirit, attracting countless people to explore it. Unexplored areas. What could one encounter in such an unexplored area? As long as one thought about it, one would not be curious. Although Noah had already gotten rid of the impatience of a young brat, his own strength was outstanding, and no one had explored below the 58th floor of the buried city. Moreover, there were questions such as how monsters were born, how magic stones were produced, and why the buried city rejected divine power. Noah wanted to take a trip. Of course, at most, it was just a little. Thus Noah said so. This matter is not that urgent. If you really want me to help, go back and discuss it with Loki and Finn. I think they should have more ideas. Okay. AIC nodded heavily. I will. Seeing how serious AIC was, Noah could not help but feel a little amused as he continued to stroke her head, making her blush slightly again. Noah had to admit that he really wanted to treat AIC as a cute little sister. After saying goodbye to AIC in the central square, Noah walked out of the square and walked in the direction of Hestia's clan. I wonder how everyone is doing. Recalling the members of the clan that he had not seen for almost a year, Noah's footsteps could not help but quicken a little. At the same time, the news of Noah's return from the buried city also spread like wildfire, and was quickly learned by the major clans of Eulalia. The return of the tyrant, who once destroyed the entire clan of Apollo with his own strength and once forced the only LV-7 to retreat, suddenly attracted the attention of many people, including the Lord God of Hestia's clan. So, before Noah had time to return to the base camp of Hestia's clan, a commotion suddenly arose on the street in front of him. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! A petite figure rushed out from the other side of the street, shouting as she rushed. My Noah is back! I have to hurry to greet him! All of you get out of the way! Seeing the petite goddess rushing all the way, many people were startled and quickly moved aside. When they reacted, they were just about to scold her, but they suddenly showed a perverted expression, because the petite goddess with an unusually full upper body followed the natural law of her plump upper body, swaying up, down, left, and right desperately in the process of rushing all the way, which could make any man's eyes pop out. Noah was also almost scared. When he recovered, he quickly grabbed the goddess before she was about to rush past him. Ah! Hestia cried out in alarm and glared at him. What are you? Before she could finish her sentence, Hestia saw Noah with a speechless face. Chapter 1975. Noah. Noah? Hestia asked in an uncertain tone, as if she was trying to test the waters. Noah, who was speechless, couldn't help but burst into laughter when he saw how worried he was about recognizing the wrong person. I say, my deity, who are you running so fast to meet? Hearing Noah's voice, Hestia finally confirmed that she didn't see wrongly. Hestia's eyes suddenly lit up. Noah, it's really you. You're back. Under the gazes of all the people on the busy street, Hestia suddenly cheered and threw herself into Noah's arms. Ouch! In an instant, with such a sound like a sound effect, the petite but extremely voluptuous goddess threw herself on Noah, pressing her voluptuous upper body directly in front of Noah. This scene made the surrounding males widen their eyes and almost spit out the accumulated blood in their chests. The wonderful touch made Noah almost cry out. When he reacted, one of his hands had already clenched into a fist and fiercely hit Hestia's head. Bang! A merciless muffled sound rang out. Wah! The petite goddess with an extraordinary figure immediately squatted down with her hands covering her head. She complained to Noah with tears in her eyes. What are you doing? I want to ask you what you're doing. Noah's mouth twitched. Haven't you changed your bad habit of hugging me at the drop of a hat? What? What's wrong with hugging? Hestia shouted with tears in her eyes. You're my lovely wife. Can't I hug you? No, Noah said without hesitation. Anyone can, but you can't. Hestia opened her eyes wide. Why? No reason. Noah couldn't help glancing at Hestia's voluptuous upper body. The corners of his eyes twitched, and he said rudely and unreasonably, You just can't. How could this happen? Hestia staggered as if she had been hit by a heavy blow. My Noah, you're actually starting to dislike me. Seeing Hestia's expression, Noah smiled bitterly. He had no choice. The way this young goddess expressed her feelings was too direct. In addition, her voluptuous figure made Noah's heart waver every time he was hugged by her. In order to avoid being killed by this cute girl, Noah could only force himself to be cruel. The surrounding males seemed to be able to understand Noah's thoughts, but they seemed to feel that it was a pity. For a while, they sighed repeatedly, causing the surrounding people to sigh. Noah didn't expect that one day, he would be understood by a group of passers-by. Tears streamed down his face. After smiling bitterly for a while, Noah half knelt in front of Hestia, who seemed to have received a heavy blow. He maintained the same height as Hestia, stretched out his hand, and patted Hestia's head. I'm back. Hearing this, Hestia's youthful but beautiful face gradually recovered. She looked at Noah and gave him a cute smile. Welcome back. I'm sorry. Please make way. At dusk, among the crowd on the street, a pair was running at an extremely fast speed. It was a pair of a man and a woman. The man was a human. It was a white-haired human who was about 15 or 16 years old. He was wearing pure silver light armor, and had a short knife at his waist. The woman was a small human. The man had reddish-brown hair, and was wearing a gray cloak. He was carrying a backpack that was almost as big as his body. This pair was constantly apologizing to the surrounding people, but they couldn't help but squeeze through the crowd and run at their fastest speed on the street. Lord Bale, please go faster. I know. It was Bale and Lily. Bale and Lily squeezed through the crowd at an extremely fast speed, under the curses of the surrounding residents. They kept running forward until they reached the base camp of Hestia's family. Then, without any hesitation, they pushed the door open. Bang! With a loud bang, the door was opened. Then Bale and Lily saw it. In the hall, on the sofa, Noah and Hestia were sitting together and chatting about something. Noah heard the sound and turned his head. When he saw Bale and Lily who suddenly barged in, he couldn't help but smile. Hey Bale, Lily, long time no see. Leader. Bale said in surprise. You're really back? Lord Noah, Lily said in a happy tone. You're finally back. During the month when Noah was away, Bale and Lily didn't idle at home. Instead, they teamed up to explore the dungeon. Of course, unlike Noah, who could enter the deeper area, Bale and Lily were still struggling in the upper area. I heard from Hestia. Bale, Lily, you've reached level 12, right? Noah praised. Well done. It seems that you've made great progress in the past month. No, Lord Noah, you're too kind. Lily quickly shook her head. I'm just a support. I helped Lord Baal pick up magic stones and carry your luggage. It's all thanks to Lord Baal that we could reach level 12. It's not like that, Baal quickly refuted. If it weren't for Lily, I wouldn't have been able to fight freely. Moreover, Lily would have supported me from the rear. Without Lily, I wouldn't have been able to reach level 12. No. Lily only contributed a little. Lord Baal is the best. No. Lily is the best. I'm just brute force. Without Lily, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Lord Baal, you're too modest. Lily is overestimating me. Noya and Hestia looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh at the same time. All right, both of you have worked very hard. As your overgod, I am very happy, Hestia said with a bit of pride and emotion. A few months ago, I was still a destitute god who didn't even have a clan or a single member. That's why I've seen your performance, and I'm satisfied from the bottom of my heart. You don't have to decline. Hestia is right. Noah nodded and glanced at Baal and Lily. A month ago, Baal was still a rookie. Now he's already reached the 12th floor. I've seen your progress and growth. Although Lily isn't good at fighting, I know that you're a think tank. Without you, Baal wouldn't have been able to clear the floors so quickly. You must have helped a lot behind the scenes. Both of you have done well. With that said, Noah picked up 2 pieces of parchment from the table. Even if you're modest, your current ability values are recorded here. I can see that you've made great progress just by looking at your ability values. Baal Chronelv. 1 Strength. B737 Durability. C677 Dexterity. B749 Dexterity. A817 Magic Power. C611 Magic Flame Lightning. Quick Attack Magic Skills. Hero's Wish active action has the right to execute it. Leluka Erdlv. 1 Strength. I81 Endurance. H124 Dexterity. G236 Dexterity. F388 Magic Power. E404 Magic Cinderella. Transformation Magic. Transformation image changes according to imagination when chanting. Failure when lack of specificity. Suggested imitation. Chant. Your mark belongs to me, my mark still belongs to me. Incantation. The voice of the apocalypse at 12 o'clock. Skills behind the scenes. Bonus when the weight of the equipment exceeds a certain level. The ability bonus is proportional to the weight. Let's not talk about Lily for now. Baal's ability value is growing really fast. A month ago, none of his basic abilities were at level H, but now the lowest one is at level C. Ability value can't lie. Noah smiled. So don't be modest. Is that so? Baal and Lily both scratched their heads embarrassedly, but there was a trace of excitement in their expressions. Clearly, the two of them were very happy to be praised by their leader, Noah. By the way, I just came back, and I'm a little hungry. Noah changed the topic. Baal, Lily, can you help me make something to eat first? Yes. Baal and Lily quickly put down the equipment in their hands and walked into the kitchen. Looking at Baal and Lily who walked into the kitchen, Noah's eyes narrowed slightly. Chapter 1976. Listening to the voices of Baal and Lily in the kitchen, Noah shifted his gaze back to the parchment in his hand. Looking at their ability values, he frowned slightly. Hestia, who had been observing Noah, naturally saw the slight frown on Noah's face. However, she didn't feel puzzled. Instead, she lowered her voice and said. She asked in a low voice, "What do you think?" That's impossible, right? Noah also lowered his voice, but he did not look at Hestia. Instead, he took out the parchment that recorded Baal's ability value and placed it on the table. Isn't the growth of this ability value a little too unusual? That's right. Baal's ability value growth was a little unusual. Now Noah was no longer the young boy who didn't know anything when he first came to this world. Noah had personally helped him upgrade his ability value more than once, so he was much more familiar with it than before. Therefore, Noah knew that Baal's ability value growth was a little unusual. I remember you told me before that in other spawns, the average ability value would only grow faster at the beginning. Even so, within 1 or 2 weeks, or even 1 or 2 months, their basic ability proficiency would not exceed 20 points, Noah said. If that's the case, isn't Bale's ability value growth a little too unusual? Others could only increase their basic ability proficiency by less than 20 points within 1 or 2 weeks, or even 1 or 2 months. But in this 1 month, to what extent did Bale's proficiency in his basic abilities increase? It increased by more than 3,000 points. Was this growth rate normal? Of course it's not normal, Hestia replied, but then her face fell. She looked at Noah with an annoyed expression. I really want to say that, but don't forget that Bale took at least a month to grow to this point. You, on the other hand, increased your ability proficiency by more than 2,500 points in a day. You even leveled up twice in a month. Who's more abnormal than you? Noah choked. If it wasn't for the fact that I was immune to your strange growth, I would have been scared out of my wits. Hestia sighed and reached out her hand. However, it's different from you. The reason why you can grow so quickly is because of the possibilities in your body. The reason why Bale can grow so quickly is because of his skills. She lightly traced her finger on the parchment that recorded Bale's ability value. Clang. Under a faint flash of light, the ability value on the parchment changed a little. To be more precise, there was an additional skill in Bale's ability. Longing with all my heart precocious. The effect was maintained at the same time as the feeling of longing. The stronger the longing, the greater the effect. Yearning with all my heart? Noah said in surprise. What skill is this? It's a rare skill, Hestia said with certainty. I think the reason why Bale's ability value grew so quickly is because of this skill. In other words, this is a skill that can increase the speed of growth. Noah was a little surprised. It seems that Bale's luck is not bad. It's not luck, Hestia shook her head and said seriously to Noah. Don't forget, the so-called skills are created when a person's nature, constitution, and interest are related to other factors. Bale's skill is the same. For example, Miss Support's hero behind the scenes is based on her determination to become a professional support. Bale's hero wish is probably because he was stimulated by you and longed to become a hero like you. That's why it was created. Hestia pointed at the skill in Bale's ability value. And this so-called yearning with all my heart is no doubt because Bale has a strong longing for someone. It's based on that. Who did he have a strong longing for? Noah was stunned. Then he remembered how Bale always blushed in front of a certain young lady. His eyes widened at once. It can't be. That's right, Hestia said helplessly. The girl that Bale has his eyes on should be the one from that idiot Loki's clan. Who was it? Ace Wallenstein. In the beginning, Bale was looking forward to being the first person he would meet when he met the beautiful girl in the underground city. Since that was the case, it was not strange for Bale to have a yearning for AIC. Unfortunately, that Wallenstein doesn't have any interest in Bale, Hestia said with gritted teeth. If it was someone from our clan, I wouldn't mind helping Bale. But since Bale has his eyes on someone from Loki's clan, then don't even think about it. You two still don't like each other. Noah was speechless. But now that the riddle in his heart was solved, Noah's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. He crumpled the parchment in his hand. Also, I can roughly guess why you're hiding this skill. Bale's yearning with all his heart was definitely a rare skill. It might even be a unique skill. After all, if the same skill appeared, someone who grew so quickly would have made a name for himself long ago. Since Bale had a unique skill, if the gods of other clans knew about it, they would definitely rush over to snatch it. For gods who yearned for a little entertainment all day, the appearance of a rare skill would definitely arouse everyone's interest. When the time came, Bale would probably be devoured without leaving even his bones behind. That was why Hestia had hidden this ability and didn't want to reveal it. Perhaps even Bale did not know that he had such a skill. Bale is too gullible. Once he knows that he has such a rare skill, he won't be able to hide anything. Hestia puffed up her cheeks. If Bale is half as smart as you, then I don't have to worry about him being played around by others. You should be content, Noah laughed. Others can't even get a member of their clan with a rare skill. Not only do you have it, But you also think that he's not smart enough. That's a little too much, isn't it? I know, that's why I'm just thinking about it. Hestia puffed up her cheeks even more. Anyway, I'll only tell you this. You have to keep an eye on Baal. Don't let him be deceived by those gods with bad intentions. Got it? Noah muttered thoughtfully as he cast his gaze on Baal, who was busy in the kitchen. Also, since Baal's all-ability value is above C stage, then I'll find a chance to take him to the middle or lower level to see if he can level up. Hestia patted Noah's shoulder like an old man, but then she thought of something and said, "Then I'll leave it to you. I trust you." Speaking of ability value, you haven't updated your ability value for a month. I'll help you update your ability value and see how much you've grown. Hearing this, Noah's expression froze. Help Noah to update his ability value? The problem was, did Noah have any ability value to be updated? Noah's ability value was still evolving in the between worlds. How could he update his ability value? Noah quickly said, "With my current level, I don't think I can improve much in a month. Let's update it together later." Hestia was startled. "Undoubtedly, your growth is frighteningly fast. Based on that growth rate, it's not strange for you to level up after a month of continuous killing in the deeper level, right?" "Maybe." Noah smiled awkwardly and said hesitantly, "But I don't kill monsters all day in the deeper level. After all, the map isn't very detailed, and the deeper level is so vast. I get lost every 2 or 3 days, so I shouldn't have grown much." "Is that so?" Hestia looked directly at Noah, her eyes full of suspicion. "Are you hiding something from me?" "Am I?" Noah turned his head away. "No, right?" Hestia reached out her hand and held Noah's face, turning his head to face her. "You must be. Don't try to lie to me. I'm still a god. You can't lie in front of a god." "No." Noah quickly pulled Hestia's hand away. "Okay, I'm going to help Belle and Lily cook." After saying that, Noah turned around and was about to run away. "Don't even think about running away." Hestia suddenly jumped on Noah's back and hung on tightly. Once again, Noah's body was fiercely squeezed, causing Noah to almost scream again. As a result, the two wrestled in the living room until night fell. Chapter 1977. As a result, after messing around for an entire night, Hestia still did not get anything out of Noah. After all, if Noah told Hestia that his ability points had been stripped away for some reason, she would definitely suffer the most serious blow and be unable to recover from it. It couldn't be helped. The ability points carved by the gods were equivalent to belonging to a member of a clan. It told everyone that they belonged to the clan. In Hestia's opinion, Noah's ability points being stripped away was the same as leaving one's clan. In addition, Noah's ability points were carved by Hestia herself. Noah himself was the first member of Hestia's clan, and the family member that she valued the most. If she knew that Noah's ability points had been stripped away, even if it was only temporary, it would definitely be a blow to her. Ever since the war game with Apollo's minions, Hestia's possessiveness towards Noah had risen to the extreme. She would never allow any main god to touch Noah. Normally, she would guard against gods as if they were wolves. It could be seen how important Noah was to Hestia. And now, the ability value that I had personally engraved on Noah had been stripped away. Noah no longer had the favor that I had given him. He was now considered free. Regardless of the reason, this fact alone would make Hestia cry, wouldn't it? Therefore, Noah really could not tell Hestia the truth. He could only endure Hestia's endless pestering while wailing under the various intimate touches of the young goddess. In the end, he was freed by Baal and Lily. However, it didn't take long for a new problem to arise. That was the problem of accommodation. It should be noted that there were only 3 rooms in Hestia's clan's base camp. After Lily moved in, an emergency had been declared for the room. However, at that time, Noah was ready to leave, so he gave his room to Lily. Now that Noah had returned, the problem of the room arose once again. Noah did not mind sleeping on the sofa in the living room. However, whether it was Hestia, Baal, or Lily, none of them agreed to this matter. Therefore, after some arguments, Hestia announced in the most willful manner, Noah will stay in my room. No one is allowed to object. Under the orders of the overlord, Baal and Lily compromised. As for Noah, there was only one thought in his mind. It's over. That night, Noah was hugged tightly by Hestia, and she also rubbed against him fiercely for the entire night. Noah almost had a nefarious desire. If it wasn't for the fact that Noah knew that Aster, Athena, Orpheus, and Lilith were still living in his gift card, and that the 4 girls could peek into the outside world at any time and see what he was doing, Noah wasn't sure if he could endure it for the entire night. Not to mention, the goddess of wisdom seemed to have seen through Noah's heart. When Hasti gave Noah all kinds of benefits, she spoke to Noah in such a way that it was as if she had seen through Noah's heart. She is like me. She is famous for being a virgin goddess. She has always maintained her purity. Do you want to blaspheme such a goddess while she is sleeping? Is she my fated person? This sentence made Noah completely lose his temper. That night, Noah couldn't sleep without any suspense. Moreover, he would probably continue to have insomnia for the rest of the night. In this regard, Noah could only leave this sentence in the endless night. What kind of sin have I committed? The next day, as soon as the sun rose, Noah came out of Hestia's room. Leader, Lord Noah? In the living room, Belle and Lily, who were tidying up their equipment, were quite surprised to see Noah coming out of the room. There was no other reason other than the fact that Noah looked so tired that he almost had 2 dark circles around his eyes. In the hearts of Belle and Lily, Noah had always been a great existence. He was like a hero and a brave man. He could even destroy Apollo's family with his own strength. Even LV-7, who was known as Orly's ultimate weapon, couldn't do anything to him. He was so strong that he was like a god. Therefore, when they saw Noah's haggard face, Belle and Lily were really shocked. Noah didn't know that his appearance had frightened them. He yawned and greeted Belle and Lily. Good morning, both of you. Good morning, Belle replied stupidly before he realized what was going on. No, it's not the time to say good morning. Leader, what happened? What's going on? Noah was slightly startled and asked curiously. Nothing? Why did you suddenly say that? Because Lord Noah looks very tired, Lily said cautiously. Did he not have enough rest? Then Lord Noah, it's best for you to take a rest. Yes. Belle nodded. Leader, you just came back from the deep zone. You should rest more. No need, Noah said with a wry smile. Anyway, I definitely can't rest. Can't rest? Belle and Lily were taken aback, and they were extremely puzzled. Why can't he rest? Did something really happen? Belle and Lily both thought so. However, before the two of them had the chance to think too much, Noah spoke lazily. Are you going to the dungeon? Yes, Lily replied. Lily and Lord Belle usually enter the dungeon at this time. Is that so? Noah nodded and continued asking. Then which level are you going to today? Same as yesterday. We're going to walk around level 12, Belle said dejectedly. Actually, I want to go to level 13. Don't even think about it, Lord Belle, Lily interrupted without hesitation. Starting from the 13th floor is the middle floor. In the division of the guild, it is a floor that only LV-2 high-level adventurers can explore. Although Lord Belle is already considered to be outstanding in LV-1 after all, he is still LV-1 and cannot take risks. But isn't there Lily? Belle asked. If there's a team, even level 1 adventurers can go to the middle zone, right? Indeed, if there's a team, we can go to the middle zone. Lily sighed. But Lord Bale, please think about it carefully. Our team only has 2 people, and only Lord Bale has sufficient combat power. Lily is only a support, and her combat power is not up to par. It is too dangerous for us to challenge the middle class in our current situation. Belle naturally understood Lily's meaning, but he didn't know what to say and lowered his head. Although it wasn't like before, where he wanted to seek encounters in the dungeon all day long, as an adventurer, he definitely wanted to challenge the lower zone. Unfortunately, the middle zone was different from the upper zone. Starting from the middle zone, the monster's strength would not only increase to a level that was extremely dangerous for level 1 adventurers, but the frequency of monsters' appearance would also increase greatly. With Belle's current strength, If he went to the middle zone, even with Lily's support, he would definitely die. Lily doesn't want to stop Lord Bell like this, but it's really not suitable to go to the middle zone at the moment. Even if Lord Bell rose to level 2, Lily would still stop him. Lily said very seriously. Lily had the honor of going to the 17th floor with Lord Noah, so Lily knows how terrible the monsters in the middle zone are. Unless Lord Bell can find other trustworthy teammates, it's too dangerous to go to the middle zone now. Teammates? Bell was a little dejected. At this moment, Noah spoke. In that case, let me be your teammate. Bell and Lily first made a sound of disbelief, and when they understood Noah's meaning, even their eyes widened. Leader, Lord Noah, will be our teammate. Don't make a fuss, okay? Noah was speechless. No matter what, we are all partners of the same clan. Is it strange to go to the maze together? Or do you not trust me? No. There's no such thing. Bell's head shook like a rattle drum, and Lily quickly said. It's just that Lord Noah has just returned, and he should have a good rest. It's a waste of talent to go to the dungeon with us. No, it's a waste of talent. Whether it's a waste of talent or not, it should be up to me, not you, Noah said snappily. Do you think I'm going to take care of you? Bell and Lily suddenly looked at each other and said in unison. Isn't that so? Suddenly, Noah choked on his words. Okay, maybe more or less, but I'm not going to escort you on a whim. I don't intend to spoil you to this extent. Noah rolled his eyes. Are you going or not? At that moment, Bell and Lily could only nod helplessly. Chapter 1978. In the central square of the labyrinth city, Olalai, Noah and Bale were on standby in the square surrounding the white wall tower that reached the sky. Looking at the sleepy Noah standing in front of the Tower of Babel, and yawning incessantly, the surrounding adventurers who were preparing to enter the dungeon whispered to each other. That's the tyrant, right? He looks more lazy in real life than in the live broadcast of the war games. What do you know? Maybe to him, entering the dungeon is such an easy thing to do? Well, to the tyrant, other than the deeper levels, the upper, middle, and even lower levels are all very easy, right? In other words, he doesn't intend to enter the deeper levels today, right? After all, he just came back yesterday. The adventurers were whispering to each other as they looked at Noah in awe. Noah, who was used to it, did not care about it, but Bale felt a little uncomfortable. I feel so much pressure standing next to the leader. One was a super famous person that even LV5 and LV6 adventurers could only look up to. The other was a rookie LV1 adventurer who had not leveled up yet. How could the adventurers not feel pressured when the two of them stood next to each other and were surrounded by people who were whispering to each other? At least, Bale felt a little pain in his stomach. Under such circumstances, Bale fully realized how amazing the people around him were. I don't know when I can be like the leader and Miss Wallenstein, who are respected by everyone. While Bale was thinking about this, the surrounding people started to talk about him. Who's that white-haired brat next to him? He seems to be from the same clan as the tyrant. Is he planning to enter the dungeon with the tyrant? No wonder the tyrant looks bored. He's here to bring a newbie. I'm so envious. If I had the tyrant to bring me, I would have leveled up to LV2. Yeah. Clearly hearing the discussions around him and bearing the envious gazes of the people around him, Bale felt a pang of fear in his heart. As a rookie LV1 adventurer, it was really a rare thing for Bale to be looked at with such envious eyes. Although sometimes some LV1 adventurers would look at Bale with envious eyes, Bale knew that it was not for him, but for his equipment. Don't forget that back then, Noah had personally equipped Bale with a set of equipment that was too extravagant for a newbie adventurer. There was even a Tier 3 weapon that only a Tier 3 adventurer could possess. Therefore, in the past, Bale could occasionally see some LV1 adventurers looking at the equipment on his body with envious eyes, and secretly scolding him for wasting God's gift and joining a good clan. Frankly speaking, Bale had the same idea in the beginning. Hence, Bale put in extra effort in exploring the dungeon, hoping that he could become an adventurer worthy of his equipment. Now, the envy of the people around him was no longer directed at Bale's equipment, but at him. Naturally, Bale began to feel uncomfortable. So Bale couldn't help but speak. Why isn't Lily back yet? Do you think it's easy to prepare all the items? Noah yawned and replied. You originally planned to stop at the 12th floor, so the elixirs and items you prepared were all low level. Lily suddenly left halfway to prepare more elixirs and items, in case she needed them in the lower floors. Is that so? Bale touched his head in confusion. I feel that with the leader here, those elixirs and items may not be of use. You're wrong. Noah glanced at Bale. The battle still needs to be done by you, otherwise, how can you gain experience points? Today, Noah came with Bale to see if there was a chance to give Bale a push to level up to LV2. If he could, after Noah, Bale would become the second adventurer to level up to LV2 in only 1 month, and he would become famous from then on. Back then, Noah took a month to not only level up to LV2 but he also leveled up to LV3. Before leaving, he also leveled up to become a LV4 adventurer. His speed was so fast that it was boundless. However, the strength shown by Noah was not proportional to his level at all. His real strength was far higher than his level. Outsiders did not believe that Noah was a newcomer at all. The guild had Noah's information, but it was filled in when they registered. As a result, even the staff cast a suspicious look at Noah. Obviously, they did not believe it. If there was a genius who took only 1 month to level up to LV2 in Hestia's clan, then no one would think that Hestia was just lucky to pick up a treasure. Noah just wanted to tell everyone that Hestia was also qualified to be the main god of a clan. Under such circumstances, Noah and Bale waited for about half an hour. In the end, instead of Lily, another group of acquaintances appeared. Little brother. Accompanied by such a voice in the distance, an Amazon girl with wheat-colored skin waved enthusiastically in the direction of Noah. Beside the Amazon girl with wheat-colored skin, there were 3 other people. One was an Amazon girl with wheat-colored skin, a very pure elven girl. There was also a young swordswoman with light golden hair that reached her waist. She had golden hair and golden eyes. Surprisingly, they were Tiona, and Rafia of Loki's clan, as well as Ace, who was the first to welcome Noah's return yesterday, and chatted with Noah for a whole afternoon. Noah looked at the girls of Loki's clan in a daze. You're here too, Miss Wallenstein. Bale's face quickly turned red when he saw Ace. He hurriedly hid behind Noah. Unfortunately, the girls of Loki's clan didn't care about Bale at all and ran straight to Noah. Long time no see, little brother. Tiona hugged Noah's arm as if she was very happy. As expected, you came to the dungeon today too. When Ace said you were coming back, we thought we would meet you today. Tiona pursed her lips and smiled. After all, we've always been fated to meet each other. And every time I meet you, it's definitely not a good thing. Noah let out a sigh and looked at Ace, who had been standing there quietly. His voice softened a little. Didn't you say yesterday that Riveria allowed you to practice crush magic in the morning? I thought you would definitely come in the afternoon. I came with Tiona today. Ace's expression was as emotionless as usual, but her eyes were much gentler than usual. I didn't want to come so early. Just like what Tiona said. I felt like I would meet little brother today, so I called Ace and Leafia along, Tiona said with a smile. And we have to earn some money to repay the debt for the custom-made weapons. Custom-made weapons. Noah immediately understood. I see. Are you talking about the monsters that could dissolve weapons during the previous expedition? That's right. Our weapons were dissolved by those despicable monsters, Tiona said with a sigh. In the end, we had to borrow money for the custom-made weapons, except for Leafia. How unlucky. In other words, you intend to enter the dungeon to repay the debt. Noah nodded and looked at Leafia in confusion. Then why are you here? I see. Wait. Why do you suddenly understand? Leafia widened her eyes. Didn't you want to ask why I'm here? After all, Leafia was a magic shooter who specialized in magic. Unlike Ace and the others, she didn't need to use weapons at the front line. She shouldn't need to borrow money for the custom-made weapons. It wasn't surprising that Noah wanted to ask why the elf girl was here. However, halfway through the question, Noah guessed the reason. As for you, you must have come because Ace is here, right? Noah looked at Leafia with a faint smile. Isn't that so? Leafia was at a loss for words. Tiona couldn't help but laugh out loud. At this moment, Ace asked Noah tentatively, "Do you want to go down together?" Of course, she was referring to entering the dungeon. Hearing this, Noah said, "I have two newbies here. It might take a lot of time." "It's okay," Ace answered simply. "We only plan to go to the 18th floor today." Noah pondered for a moment and nodded. However, Noah did not expect that this nod would indeed confirm what he had said before. Nothing good would come out of meeting Loki's family. Chapter 1979. In the fog-filled underground city, a roar that caused the air to tremble slightly resounded. This was the 12th floor of the underground city. On this floor, shrouded in heavy fog, a fierce battle was going on. Bale, holding a dagger, was like an arrow leaving the bow. He stomped on the ground and rushed towards the group of orcs in front of him. It was a group of huge orcs with pig heads and beast bodies. There were not many of them, about a dozen or so. However, these dozen or so orcs were definitely not something a LV1 adventurer could deal with. However, Bale rushed forward without fear. The dagger in his hand cut through the air again and again, bringing with it a cold blade light, passing through the fat bodies of the orcs. Poochie poochie poochie. Along with the sound of ripping silk, the cold blade light easily cut open the fat body of the half-beast man. It cut open the thick flesh and peeled open the tough fur, causing numerous hideous wounds to appear on the half-beast man's body, causing bursts of blood to spurt out. The orcs all roared in pain, but after being injured, they became even more violent. Holding a stick in their hands, as if they had fallen into madness, they fiercely swung it at the adventurer who attacked them. However, before that, Bale had already relied on his extraordinary speed to escape like a rabbit, causing the clubs that were swinging towards him to smash heavily onto the ground, causing a series of muffled sounds and sand to fly everywhere. Bale wandered in the flying sand at an impressive speed. His figure was like lightning. Every time he rushed in front of the orcs, he would leave a bloody wound on the huge bodies of the orcs, causing the orcs' painful howls to resound for a long time. In the distance, Noah and a group of girls from Loki's clan watched this scene leisurely, constantly expressing their own thoughts. What fast movements! That little brother seems to be very good at dealing with heavy opponents. Tiona. He's really fast, although he's far from being as fast as Bert, but Bert is a werewolf who's good at speed, and he's also a LV5 adventurer. I guess he wasn't as fast as Bert when he was LV1, right? Tiona. However, compared to that little brother named Bale, that little guy named Lily is really powerful. Tiona. Yeah, I'm surprised. Tiona. Under the words of the Amazon twins, everyone looked at the corner some distance away from the front line. Lily, who was carrying a backpack that was twice as big as her body, stood there. As a supporter with little fighting power, it's not strange for her to be far away from the front line. However, Lily didn't just stand there. Instead, she raised her hand with a serious face, using the crossbow equipped on her arm as a weapon, constantly pulling the bowstring and shooting arrows. Both Tiona were confused when they saw Lily's actions at first. This was because orcs were considered to be one of the highest level monsters on the 1st to 12th floors. Although their huge size and fat body made their movements clumsy, they were famous for their monstrous strength and thick fur. They weren't characters that could be killed by mere bows and arrows. Therefore, the twin Amazon sisters didn't know the purpose of Lily holding a crossbow and shooting in the corner at first. It wasn't until a while later that their eyes lit up. They saw that the arrows shot by Lily were not aimed at the orcs, but at the ground. The arrows were shot one after another on the ground, but it just happened to stop the group of orcs who intended to attack from behind Bale, giving Bale a chance to breathe. After he reacted, he immediately brandished his sword and cut the bodies of the orcs. Almost at the same time, Lily's arrows were shot again, but this time, they didn't land on the ground. Instead, they were aimed at the orcs who were cut by Bale's short sword. The sharp arrows seemed to have eyes as they pierced into the open wounds of the half-blood beastmen. The half-blood beastmen howled in pain, and even slowed down their attacks. Knowing that ordinary arrows would not be able to harm the thick-skinned orcs, Lily had been supporting Bale in such a way, making use of every opportunity she had. If it weren't for Miss Supporter's help, that white-haired young man wouldn't have been able to kill so many orcs so easily, right? Tiona had a whole new level of respect for Lily. I didn't notice that little human Miss Supporter at first. I didn't expect her to be so powerful. Indeed, she has amazing insight and great judgment. Seems like she's a think tank. Tiona began to look at Lily in the eye. She's similar to Leader. However, apart from being smart, Leader's combat strength is also flawless. Naturally, Leafia heard the conversation between Tiona and Tiona as well. Besides, when Lily began to play a role, Leafia was the one who observed Lily's performance the most. Though her level is lower than mine and her combat strength is weak, Miss Lily is the real professional supporter. I have to learn from her. Leafia was a level 3 magic shooter. This level was already considered very high when more than half of the people in Eulalia were only at LV 1 on average. However, Leafia was only a newbie in the group of level 1 adventurers in Loki's clan. Although she was considered to be Riveria's successor, and often acted with level 1 adventurers such as Aze, Tiona, and Tiona, when the team entered the dungeon, Leafia would usually accompany them as a supporter and learn from the combat methods of her seniors. In this way, she could more or less learn from Lily's method of support, which would allow Leafia, who is usually not very useful, to be of some use. Moreover, she would be of greater use than Lily. After all, Miss Lily is only using ordinary bows and arrows, while I'm using magic. My support will definitely be greater. With that thought, Leafia observed Lily's actions very seriously. On the other hand, Noah and Ace stayed at the back of the team and chatted. From time to time, they would glance at Bale, who was fighting with the orcs, and Lily, who was providing support. Seeing Noah and Ace like this, Tiona and Tiona also whispered to each other. Hey Tiona, don't you think Big Brother and Ace are much closer than before? Tiona. Even the atmosphere has changed. Seems like a lot of things have happened that we don't know about. Tiona. Don't tell me that the two of them have already done that? Tiona. It's possible. If Loki knew about this, he would most likely explode. Tiona. Ace is so cunning. She actually found such a good man in secret. Tiona. I'll have to interrogate her properly when we get back. Tiona. The two sisters gathered together and snickered. Leafia, who was studying seriously at the side, almost lost her train of thought. She glared fiercely at Noah. Noah, who was chatting with Ace, felt a chill run down his spine. His expression stiffened. Ace tilted her head and asked in confusion. What's wrong? Nothing. Noah scratched his cheek and spread his hands helplessly. I'm just feeling a little emotional about your popularity. Popularity? Ace was even more confused. Forget it. Noah stretched out his hand and patted Ace's head amusedly. You won't understand even if I tell you. Ace's face was instantly filled with confusion, but when Noah patted her head, her pretty face couldn't help but show a hint of shyness. Ah. At the same time, a few screams rang out. Over there. Leafia finally couldn't stand it anymore. Put your hand down. Big Brother and Ace are really together. Tiona said excitedly. I found out. When did this happen? Tyagni's face was filled with curiosity. You'll have to explain it later. At the same time, Bale, who was fighting with the orc, was almost hit by a club. Lily's attention was also distracted, causing the originally solemn scene to become chaotic. Noah could only smile bitterly at this. What's going on? That you're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.